Hello and welcome. This is the After Credits podcast, and this is our first episode recording after our comeback episode. And today, of course, we're talking about the Acolyte. It's now finished, and
Yay!
we're going to try and be as fair as we can to it. So there you go.
Yeah, we'll
Um,
try.
so
Where to begin? Where, where do
right,
we
I,
begin?
I want to give a little outline of the structure I want the video to follow. I don't know how. We're going to try and keep this short. We're going to really try because we could talk for hours, and I hope we
And
don't.
and I just don't want to think about this any further.
Yes, it's done. I want it to be done.
Yeah.
And I want it out of my brain. Having said that, I have watched most of this twice for this episode, so you better be grateful, audience. Whatever audience we do or don't have. So, yes, I want to preface this with there's a lot of discourse, there's a lot of debate about this show, and obviously there's people on both sides. I don't care about any of that. I haven't been involved in any of that. I think some people go too far. I think some people don't go far enough. We sit in the middle. I think I speak for both of us on that. We're going to try and be as fair as we can, but we're not going to pull our punches either. And we're going to let Robert take it away because he's going to have a little short segment for us. So take it away, Robert.
So I watched 2 minutes of it and I turned it off. Utter shite, in my personal opinion.
Anything in particular that put you off?
The whole the whole fight scene. I have no patience for bad choreograph as Jedi's or Star Wars choreograph. Sorry, like we shouldn't have any bad Star Wars fights. Like the worst that we should have is what is it that Count Dooku and Yoda in the prequels. So when I saw I don't even know the characters' names, but when I saw the girl, what was it? I think she like threw a dagger at one person, and then the main Jedi like stopped it with her force, and then she like threw the other dagger and then killed this Jedi that was like promoted to be like one of the main Jedi's, and then she died instantly. Or like a couple of seconds later, it was like I don't know, my brain cells died, and I went, "This is going to be the worst show," and I turned it off. So,
And that's Robert's bit. So I think you'll be going now, Robert. We'll catch you next episode.
yeah. Well, thank you for
Everyone
inviting
say
me.
goodbye to Robert.
Bye, guys.
And he's gone. So we're back. It's just me and Brandon now. And I want to start out with some general points of the overall product now that all 8 episodes are out. What's some issues that span the whole series? And then once we've kind of and good things as well. But then once you've done that, I want to go through kind of a more of a play-by-play of each episode, and then some issues I came across watching it for the second time. Because the first time I watched it just as a fan, wanting to experience it, wanting to watch it, and I didn't go in with any preconceptions of wanting to hate it at all. I actually thought it looked pretty good going in. But yes, so that will be the format, I think. So we're going to talk about general points and then go each episode. And I haven't told Brandon that, so I hope that sounds good to you.
Yeah, you lead the way, bro.
Lead the way. So,
here.
well, speaking of lead the way, how about you give us something positive that you thought about the series in general? Just to take us on a good note. You know, I don't want to start out. There's going to be plenty of subject matter for problems, so we'll start on a good note.
It's tough because I feel like each episode has like a sliver of hope, but as an overall show, it always like screws up. So, for example, I said early days, I think this is one of the best looking shows we've had for Disney, CGI wise, setting wise. But then quickly, it felt like it was getting cheaper and cheaper every episode. I was like, oh man, like you had me at least for that. I think the action was pretty good in certain scenes. Certain scenes though, are we going full spoilers? We might as well, right?
Right, this will be full spoilers for the full show.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. So with is it Khmer? Khamir's two fights I think are pretty decent. The one with when he fights Daphne Keane, I don't know her freaking character's name, and Soul. That one's easily the best one in the show. And then the one in the final episode's like okay. There's certain moments I don't like in it, like the slow motion stuff. I didn't like that at all.
Right.
But the rest of it was fine. But it's like at the same time, nah. In fact, you know what? It's supposed to be the positive part, so I'll save that. Besides that, yeah, it's rough. I think honestly, the best part of the show is just the potential it could have had, and it just whiffed it. You know, because like we were both saying, like we were both really hyped. Not hyped. Hyped maybe an over, like an overstatement, but like we were both excited for the show. Setting wise, because we've never been to this sort of setting before, because we haven't read the books. You know, seeing the Jedi in their prime, how the Sith start to come about, all that sort of jazz. Um, and we just didn't get it. So yeah. Honestly, I mean, unless you have any positives that kind of
No, that's a good point.
sparked anything for me, like
Well,
that's all I really got.
I think you made a good. There's a couple things in there that I'll just quickly riff off of. As you say, this was kind of marketed as an insight into the Sith, and there are elements of that, but it doesn't go nearly far enough anywhere. I know that's not positive, but hey ho. I don't have a positive opinion of this.
It's going to be
So
very hard to be positive.
a positive I do have of general across the whole series is I think all the creature effects are pretty good, with the exception of the bugs in episode 4 and 5. I think all of the animatronic type, like practical bugs and creatures, kind of Porg-like beings, they're all quite fun, quite nice. I like all of them. I'm not going to like shit on the creature effects shop, you know. They're all good. I like them all, especially the ones on I think like episodes 5 and 6. There's little like critters running about. I quite like those. Apart from that, there's positives in episodes, but as a general positive, I do think the costume department. I'm kind of torn on that. I think it looks good, but I've heard
At
some
points
say,
it was decent,
yeah,
but then there'd be some characters I'm just like, that looks like it's been. I know handmade is obvious, but
yeah.
like it just looks like from arts and crafts. You know what I mean? I'm just like, like
And I feel like I don't know if you got this as well, but especially with like Daphne Keane, and I'll get into this point later in like specific scenes, but we know she's a good actress, or at least she was when she was like however old when she made Logan. So it seems a bit
yeah, when she spoke in
counterintuitive
her
to
native
me.
tongue.
Yeah, yeah. It's a bit counterintuitive to me to like cover her up in so much makeup that she has no performance behind her face now. Um,
Yeah, it's a shame.
it's just a bit of a shame. And honestly, like I heard that she was in the show, but if you if I didn't read the credits and know that was her, I probably wouldn't have clicked that was her. Um,
Nah.
yeah, it's a shame she didn't get much to do because we know she can act, you know. Um, but yeah, that's probably
Yeah.
honestly it for. I mean, general positives. I think yeah, the action in general is pretty. I think I'm a little bit more positive on the action than you are, and I think probably generally on the show I'm a little slither more positive than you are.
Yeah, just a bit, I think.
And I actually some elements of the wire work I did like, and some elements of the wire work I didn't like. There was a bit in the end of the fight in the final episode with Saul and Kamir where the bit where they jump off the bridge that was a bit too goofy for me, I thought. But just the scene after that when Saul just kind of leaps backwards like more subtly with the wire work, I really like that scene because that just felt a bit like lighter rather than like floating, you know.
Mm,
So there's like
yeah.
little sprinkles of stuff like that. And actually, I do kind of like the little bit of parkour that May does at the very beginning with her fight with Indara. I'm not the biggest fan of that fight either, but I don't mind. I actually don't mind that one. It looked kind of cool, but yeah. So
Fair.
unfortunately for us, Star Wars, and the audience, that is probably the extent of our general points of positives. So, um,
Yeah.
who wants to hack the first blow? Do you want to take something general point of like this just did not work?
I think they had. I think they initially had an idea for the concept of the show, but it felt like they had to cram things in. So I've seen a lot of people say like the twins did not need to be in this like at all. It did not need to be about them at all, which is kind of mad because they're the main characters. So you'd think the plot revolves around them, but it really doesn't. If anything, the interesting part is Soul and Kamir and potentially Vanestra, even though I really don't like her character and actress. Not in general, but just in the show. Everything I'm saying about these actors is within the show. For hindsight. Um, so I feel like they could have done a much better thing with that. I don't want to drop the Plagueis bomb right now, but just as a little hint, like I think he could have been used a lot better, and within those characters. It's like Chimera and stuff, because they clearly wanted to set up the rule of two. They wanted to get into that, like show off the Sith. But it's like you said earlier, it's been advertised as, oh, let's see the Sith's point of view. You don't really get that like properly, until like maybe the last two episodes, and then at that point it just feels rushed. Where I'm just like, all these character motivations are just all over the gaff. And as someone who like, when it comes to film and TV and everything like that, characters is my like sort of favorite part of media, mainly because I
Yeah.
prefer writing them as well. But so when you kind of balls that up, it kind of ruins everything else for me. Where it's like I can't even get into the plot or the action and stuff like that. Like I said with the fights,
If
the
the
fights are
character's not
cool,
working,
but I
nothing
don't
is.
give a
Yeah.
crap about the characters. So it's just like,
Well,
who cares then?
that
You
is a
know?
major point against episode 5.
Yeah, no, 100%. Like the fight's sick. It's like no one's doubting that. Like it's a really
Yeah.
good fight. It's not as good as everyone was hyping up to be, because I just don't believe that. But that's because I said it before. Like if you put in um who that compared to? Well, they compared it to Duel of the Fates before, so let's just use that example. We care about Qui-Gon at that point, right? We've had a whole film with him in his journey and his relationship with this Anakin kid. So it's like, okay, right, we want him to win. Obi-Wan, obviously we have favoritism because we liked him from the original, so it's like, right, we always back him. We know he's going to win anyway, whatever. And Maul's just cool, right? He's just a sick character. He's got the double blades, cool design. So it's like you're automatically invested in this fight. Also, the build-up's been there, right? They've met, they've clashed before, and the music. That's a big thing for me, right? With Star Wars recently, their music has been so, I don't want to say bad, but just so mid. Where it's just like before you would recognize the theme, where it's like, oh, that's the Duel of Fate song. Oh, that's Padme Anakin's theme song. Oh, that's this one, whatever, right? Now, I don't get that at all unless it's the introduction to the show, like a Mando or Boba Fett. That's the only ones I can really like remember now, and it's such a shame because like with Star Wars, like, you could literally play any theme and you'd be like, oh, that's from that scene. Like that's it's just ingrained in my brain. But with these new stuff, like I think some of the movies had some of that. Like I like Rey's theme, I like Kylo's theme, but when it comes to the shows, I'm just not like invested in that. So, but yeah, back to my point with the characters. That's my main thing. Is it's the
Yep.
whole motivations behind them all, because I feel like every episode it changes, and it's just so hard to get behind anyone when they're making bad decisions that doesn't, not because
Well,
they're bad decisions, but decisions because they don't make sense for the character. You know what I
and
mean?
I've kind of, in my second watch through, that's kind of what I focused on taking notes of. And
Hmm.
that's kind of probably what most of the breakdowns of each episode are going to be, are like character inconsistencies and stuff like that. So hopefully you'll have some good points to make about the points I've brought up as well.
Yeah,
Because I'm assuming you'll have noticed most of them as well because they're quite
for sure.
glaring, you know.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, but yeah, generally I think character and obviously the bad writing has become, even though ironically it's just
but
two
the thing is,
words.
like,
But
when it comes to like writing, do you mean writing as in like, I mean, it's probably as a whole, but do you mean like dialogue writing or story
well, this is the
writing
thing,
or?
right? Because I think a lot of videos just they go big letters, bad writing, right?
Yeah,
That's kind of what I wanted to break this down for, is the general points and specific points, because there are, like you say, different elements to bad writing. And is it an overall thing problem, or is it, like you say, is it more dialogue focused? That kind of stuff. So
yeah,
hopefully we're gonna get a bit more into the weeds with that stuff. But yeah, generally the characters, and a tag on to the characters themselves. There is absolutely zero chemistry between any two characters in this entire show, regardless of, like, obviously I don't think the material they're working with is stellar, but
yeah,
even
it's
within
tough.
that, no one has chemistry, and there are a few scenes, especially early on when Osha is hanging around with the kind of Jedi posse, is that they put in these little scenes that are supposed to be like, yeah, hoorah, we're a team, but like they just come off as really awkward because no one seems to actually kind of be familiar with each other, and they've not had any time to build up chemistry, and it's not even like they have natural chemistry to rely on, which is pretty horrendous in most scenes. Um,
I think it's tough as well because you're in the perspective of this character. Let's just say Osha, right? Where she knows all these people. She knows Soul. She knows what's his name.
well, uh,
The
Yord,
Yor. That's it. And Daphne Keenan. That she knows all these characters, but we don't. So it's kind of hard for us to get into that perspective of meeting these new characters because it's not like when she's meeting them, it's not like we're learning about them. It's just
Well,
like, oh, they just know each other.
this
Unlike
is
Luke Skywalker, when he meets people, it's like, oh, it's the first time he's meeting them as
Yeah.
well. You know
But
what I mean?
then
So you're learning through him.
this is a big problem with the first 2 episodes, is that there's a lot of very unnatural exposition that Yord and Daphne Keane are spouting out, and Saul even, where they are there's a scene literally in episode 1 where they are telling her own backstory, and it's like,
Right.
this is not good. And we'll come to that. I'm more specific. We'll probably get off the general points because I do want to get into the weeds. But I think just general thoughts about the series overall, and it's probably a tag on to the point you made earlier, is that the twins aren't. They're probably necessary, but you could see a show of this type, a very similar show without the twins. I think that's kind of what you mean as well, where it's like, obviously the twins are kind of in the mix because obviously the way they're born and stuff is quite important, or seemingly important, but you can definitely take those characters out and have everyone else kind of operate in a similar way and kind of have a similar beginning, middle, and end to this show. Another tag onto that is that, unfortunately, I can't. You might have her name if you've got the IMDb up, but the woman who plays Osha and May, she is probably the weakest actress on screen. And
It's debatable.
I don't know. I think she's probably, in my mind for the show, she's probably the worst actress in the show.
It's her or Vanestra for me.
I mean, I guess Vanestra's got less screen time, so it's not as it's
true,
not as bad. But yeah, hers isn't great either. But May and Osha, her acting is just pretty poor in my book, and because so much of the show is on her shoulders, it really suffers because she doesn't have any kind of intrigue from her performance. It's very wooden in places, and then it's very overdone in other places. And I think the worst example of that is when she's on the prison ship. There's literally a line, and I'll probably put a clip in the episode because I've got a list of clips that I'm like, this is funny as fuck. So it's going to be in the video hopefully. But she's on the prison transport and she gives this line, and she just like shouts it at these prisoners, and it's some of the worst. It's probably some of the worst I've seen in a long time. But she just can't carry the weight of this on her shoulders this whole show. And she has a lot of screen time, so it's really noticeable. But like you say, honestly, the acting are all around. I know a lot of people have been giving Saul a pass. On my second watch through, I think I'm I'm giving him a bit more of a pass. Obviously, me and Brandon have already talked a little bit. I know he has a slightly different opinion, so I'll let you chime in on that just after. But generally, he doesn't have a lot to do. He has there's a few scenes that his I actually really like, but again, it is kind of wooden the whole way through. There's no real like sway one way or another that gets anyone an emotional reaction out of me, really, the whole time.
Yeah, but like when it comes to Soul, right? Everyone's saying like, "Oh, he's the best character." Like when it got to like episode 2, everyone was saying, "Oh, Soul's the best character." But like honestly, what about him was so good at that point right now? You know, just because he's like the wise teacher. Is that it? You know what I mean? It's just like there's literally nothing to him except like, "Oh, I'm gonna save Osha" and stuff like that. It's just like there's just nothing there, you know. And it's like that's 2 hours worth of like, well, not really. It's probably like
An hour
and a bit.
Yeah.
Of screen time, not screen time of him, but of the show, and it's just like by that time, like you would have finished A New Hope. You know what I mean? So it's like you're already invested in all those characters at that point, whereas I'm not invested in any of them at this point. You know, I do think he has the best look out of the main cast. He looks the most Jedi-ish, and I know people are gonna hate that that way of saying it, but it's like to me, like you can visualize what a Jedi looks like, right? And you can say do that just because of what we've had in the past, and it doesn't mean to say you can't have something that looks different. Because I mean, look at the prequels; you have freaking all sorts, freaking aliens and stuff in the prequels. So it's not to say like you're limited within that, but you have that essence of a Jedi, and there's a lot of other characters that don't give me that. For example, Torben doesn't give me that vibe at all. I know he's a Padawan, but it's like your personality, your look, your essence says nothing about you being this like freaking keeper of peace, you know, and none of them do. And maybe Carrie Ann Moss, is that her name?
Yeah. Yes, yeah.
she kind of had that vibe. I didn't really like her character either, just because again she was just kind of boring. You know what I mean? It's like no character had like personality. You know, it's
Well,
just they all were just like that
thankfully,
same default Jedi. You know, it's like okay,
I think the worst offender of what you're talking about is actually Mog, which that's a terrible name, but he's
Mog.
like Venestra's kind of assistant, the kind of
All
guy
right,
she's like running around with. He is absolutely not a keeper of the peace.
yeah.
You would bully him in a schoolyard. Like he is not keeping any peace. Unfortunately. But yeah, I think, and that's a good actually segue onto. I was going to bring up before, but this is kind of a good segue into what my next point is, which is because the twins aren't necessary, and because, and I know why now they've done this, but there's no real reason for this story to take place 100 years before the Phantom Menace.
Nah,
This
not
could
at all.
take place at any point in the High Republic. Just get rid of this dumb cameos like spoilers, Yoda and Plagueis. Get rid of those, and there's
And
no
Mindy.
real
Get rid
reason.
of Mindy as well. You don't
And
need
Mindy,
Mindy.
yeah. Well, he wasn't supposed to be there anyway. But
I mean,
but
neither's Plagueis. Apparently, this is before Plagueis is born as well.
yeah,
So it's
yeah, I've
just
heard
like,
that as well.
so
But
it's all just all over the place.
I'm not really bothered about dates, to be honest. But like, it's yeah.
I'm not too fussed
it's
on
whatever.
that, but yeah, it's just like,
But
why
but
piss people off? You know,
if you
it's just like,
and this is more the point I'm trying to make is if this is our because obviously there's books and there's comics, but a lot of people don't read those, me included. I have the book, I haven't read it, but
yeah,
this is my first experience in the High Republic. Obviously, there's been elements before of, especially in like Jedi Survivor, but this is my first experience going into the High Republic, and it didn't impress me at all because what I wanted. We've seen the Jedi just before their fall, during the fall, and post fall, right? What I wanted to see them at their prime, or at least like closer to their prime. But they seem to be acting the exact same way the Jedi did in Phantom Menace. You know, they're not
if
any
not
different,
worse.
if not worse. And
If not worse.
obviously, there's a message behind that. Leslie Headland's trying to get is like, oh, like this is a long time coming. This isn't just like around the time of Phantom Menace that this was coming about. But, and this comes on to my next point is that. Well, you could have set this 1,000 years before and actually probably had cooler things like the cross guards turn up and stuff like that. Because there's no
Yeah.
like cool aesthetic that really, apart from the golden robes, that really separates it from Phantom Menace. So either set it just before Phantom Menace, or set it like way away. Like why now? There's not been any justification within the story of why now. You know, it just happened that way because that's how it was written. But it's not really taking advantage of the High Republic, and it's not really taking advantage of just being before Phantom Menace either. It's kind of stuck in this little interim where it's like you're not really getting the best of both worlds at all. And onto that, the point I have here is basically we've not really had a win for the Jedi in a while, you know? And obviously, a big part of that comes from we've been in the prequel era for a long time, and the Jedi aren't supposed to be the good guys at that point, right? So to see them in their prime would have given them a win that we kind of need as fans, or at least for me as a fan. I want to see them I want to understand why these guys were the keepers of the peace in the first place. I want to see them doing their job well. Obviously, that doesn't make an interesting story if everything's fucking daisies and sunshine, but obviously you can have problems within the Jedi, but in the whole order level of the Jedi, like the Jedi Order level, like show me why these guys are respected. Show me why people trust them and let them protect their bars, and why people let them go across the galaxy and help them. You know, why they like how they managed to garner this 1,000-year peace. And the problem is, in my mind, the Jedi have kind of become Rick Dalton of the Star Wars universe, where so in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Al Pacino's character talks to Leonardo DiCaprio's character, and he's like, "Oh, you've become the heavy. You know, you had a good spin with you had a good run in your prime, and then since then, you've been getting beat up by the new guy, and beat up by the new guy, and beat up by the new guy." And kind of the Jedi have been going through the same thing, where they've kind of been beat down so much over the past 10 years that nobody really seems to give a shit about them anymore. And this was kind of the opportunity for, like, at least in my view, to like show people, oh, this is the beacon of the Jedi. This is why people love them again, you know? And they've become the heavy, where we've just seen them like do horrible things, just get like knocked out like chumps. It's like this is not what a Jedi are supposed to be better than this, you know? Like obviously, like there's a human aspect to it as well, where we need to see them display human characteristics and have flaws. I'm not saying don't give them flaws. I'm saying show me why the Jedi are the Jedi, you know? And we haven't had that. And obviously we've had elements of that with like probably Luke in Mandalorian and Boba Fett and elements of Ahsoka, but Ahsoka's not even a real Jedi, like arguably she's not a real Jedi anymore,
Yeah,
you know? So like
yeah,
it doesn't really count in my like it's weird to have and honestly I'm okay with that because that's the point in the story at that time, but we're not at that point in time yet, you know? And obviously you can sprinkle elements of that throughout your story, and that's kind of how it should have been, but to make the whole story about a cover up, it's like, yeah, but why not do that just set closer to Phantom Menace because you know, that's the time period where they do that. This was supposed to be something new for me, at least. I mean, that might not have been the point in the first place, but at least my expectation going in was like, this was something new. This was the High Republic. Even the High Republic, that has connotations of highness, you know, like a better thing, you know? And that's just not what's
yeah.
here. So it's really, really disappointing that the Jedi are become kind of this punching bag for Disney, or like Star Wars Disney. And it just sucks.
Yeah, and I get like, because there's a criticism in the prequels where they would say, "Oh, the Jedi have just become superheroes. Like they're just too overpowered." And it's like, yeah, no, I agree with that. They shouldn't be that level of overpoweredness, but because but you do need flaws. You know what I mean? Like Obi-Wan in the originals, he had flaws. He lies. You know what I mean? He's a bit of a not. I don't want to call him a manipulator, but like he's trying to manipulate Luke into killing his own father, right? Because he would think, well, if he knows, he's not going to kill him, so I kind of need to
Well, yeah, he's
hide
trying
the
to tell
truth
a
from him,
noble lie, right?
Same with Yoda. Yoda does it too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like they're not perfect people, but they're still good guys. There's no doubt that Yoda and Obi-Wan aren't the heroes of their movies
But when
and
you're
shows.
but when you're in Luke's hut and Yoda turns to Obi-Wan in the Force and starts speaking to him, you're like, oh, this is like a reverent being, you know?
Yeah,
There's a sacredness with the Jedi that just isn't displayed here, you know?
yeah.
I think
No,
that's me.
exactly,
But yeah.
exactly. And it's like you said, we haven't had a good example of a Jedi in a while. We've only had little moments like I think that's why everyone loves that Boba Fett episode with Luke so much because it's like finally we get to see like a true Jedi. We haven't seen that in ages. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Just like an example.
Mm.
And then we think we're going to get that in Obi-Wan, and then we just don't because he's just this coward who hid away, and he's supposed to be defending this kid, and
Yeah.
he's just not done that. And then we get to this show, and they're actively lying to like not just like people like Obi-Wan with Luke. They're lying to like the Senate, the Republic. They're lying to each other. Freaking, so, you know what I mean? That kind of puts a bad taste in my mouth because it's like they hint towards the thing with Yoda, which is my favorite character. People don't know. Like, so what's she going to tell him? Like, is she going to lie to him, or is she going to tell him the truth and then he has to lie? Because either way, it's a bad freaking option. Because like
Yeah.
surely he would figure out that she's lying. But also, like, where the hell's he been this whole season? Not that I want him to be in it, because I can't lie. When he showed up, I groaned because I was like, no, don't you butcher my guy.
And then it ended and you were like, oh thank God. That's all
Yes,
it is.
like honestly, you know what? It was nice to see it was practical effects. I'll say that.
Yeah.
But besides that, yeah, it's just like it's the same with Plagueis, right? If I not like we'll say Plagueis. I don't want to like just spitball everything, but like if we're sticking to the Jedi, yeah, you're right. It's just like there's no good example of a Jedi here. Literally none. Maybe like a Daphne Keane character. Like I can't see a massive flaw in her unless you've got notes on her.
No, but
You know,
at the same time, she's not a Jedi Knight yet. She's still a Padawan
she's
and
still a
learning.
Padawan, yeah.
So
So
for
it's
her to
yeah,
have like no flaws, that's not even emblematic of like the Order of Jedi because she's still learning. She hasn't even matured yet. So for her to not have flaws, that's almost like a naive thing rather than like she's an emblem of. To be fair, she has some decent lines, like you say. She does kind of have a naive quality about her when she's talking to May and stuff.
yeah.
Osha, but she's probably
But
closer to
she
what
she
we
should
would
have
have
she
expected
should
from a
have felt
master.
like Ahsoka. She should have felt like Ahsoka from Clone Wars, and like this young naive Jedi who like wants to do good, but then she gets cut up. And it's like, oh shoot! Like I was expecting that. I was expecting her to be like a big character going forward, but no, they kill her, which is fine. I don't mind surprises like that. It's just like there was
That's a
nothing
good point.
there.
I
But
agree.
also, I just don't like her design. It's just like that matters as well. You know what I mean? Like people like Kit Fisto because he's got a sick design. Plo Koon, all that. Even though they're background characters, you automatically like them because they look cool. And it's like that's enough for some people. But like you said, with like this Morg character or Daphne Keane and stuff like that, it's just like they all look kind of ass. Even Venestra, who's meant to be like this like grand like Mace Windu level like Jedi, freaking like she just looks like a freaking Martian Manhunter. You know what I mean? It's just like they all do so boring. And even like the
I think
Wookiee, like the Wookiee, is a cheat code. You should automatically love that character just because he's a Wookiee. But there's just nothing there. You know what I mean?
Well,
It's like there's
and
really
none
nothing.
of them have presence either, because even when you're in the room and like say in the council in the early, like in the prequels, and you've got arguments between like Ki-Adi-Mundi and Mace Windu, or like
Yeah.
over like how can they train Anakin? It's like that discussion between Qui-Gon and the Jedi Council over training Anakin. It's like they all have a different kind of say in it, you know? Even just sitting there,
You
like
automatically figure out the personalities just by their one line,
yeah,
that they give off, because you
and we never
automatically
get that
see,
here.
okay, Mace Windu and Mundi, they're more strict with the code. They're not just gonna let this happen. Whereas Yoda's more just sitting back listening, and then he's gonna say his word at the end. It's just like, all right, he's like takes in everyone's opinion. Whereas Qui-Gon's more like not traditional. He's kind of outside that realm, and
They
Obi-Wan's
train
kind
like
of there
that.
just
Yeah,
listening as well. It's just like automatically in that one scene, you figured it out. You know everyone's dimensions.
whereas
Obviously you got the random background characters that say nothing, but they don't matter. They're just
in
there for
this,
aesthetic.
I think in this, there's a lot of one-on-one conversations. There's not a lot of like ensemble conversations between people inputting information, right? There's just a lot of like, oh, Saul's talking to so and so. Oh, Osha's talking to so and so. Obviously, that's not a problem, but like if you just never get those kind of ensemble like conversations, it's hard to gauge exactly what people's relationships are to each other and what happens when they
Yeah.
interact. You don't get them. But unless you've got anything else general to say, I'm happy to go through the breakdown.
Yeah, regarding the Jedi, I think we've kind of covered most of it, yeah. I'm sure it'll
Anything
pop up.
else that's non like episode specific? Just a general point on the whole show. Do you want to give a score? Do you want to dare give a out of 10?
I'll wait till the end. I'll wait till the end for that.
Okay, yeah, fair enough.
Wait till the end.
Wait till the end for that, viewers. We'll give
Yeah,
a
go for it.
little 10. So, episode 1. I'm just gonna rattle through my notes, and I've got quite a lot, so we'll just keep going. Major issue straight away. Master Indara just lets May beat up all those civilians before she does anything, and that
Brilliant.
may be obviously there's a kind of samurai, because obviously the Jedi are based in samurai, and there's obviously kind of a bar fight like trope in that, where it's like, oh, I think they're trying to make her look badass by just kind of not being phased by the display of violence in front of her. I think that's the point they're trying to get across. But it does just come. She's supposed to protect these people, and she's just letting them get beat the fuck up. She's like, May is literally kicking tables at people like across the room, and she's just stood there doing nothing. It's like as soon as she grabbed that first guy, intervene. That should have been it, right? But just as a protector, that just doesn't make sense. And like straight away, it's like, right, what's going on here? You know, like, and some of these things might be nitpicks. I'm going to try and not focus on nitpicks as much, but a lot of things that are like character, like emblematic of character or something like that, that's when I'm going to try and bring it up. But that just really rubbed me the wrong way, because it's like she's posted on this planet to protect people, and she's just letting them get beat the fuck up. Like, what the hell? I don't know if you have anything to add to that, but
Yeah, it's a good point. Yeah, for sure. The thing I haven't, the thing is, I've not seen them since it came out. So you saying this
well,
stuff's probably going to be like,
and that's
I
why
don't
I
know,
watched a lot.
but yeah.
I haven't watched. I've watched episode 1 to 6, I think, again, because honestly, they did just kind of go in one eye and out. Well, in one ear, out the other, but in both eyes and out the ears, I guess. But yeah, I think it was a shame that May, because actually May, like I said earlier, like May kind of parkours up the bar, like with the Force, and I was kind of ashamed that like that didn't really happen again. They never really use that again in a fight. They just kind of do it once to make it like as the big like, oh, the showstopper. This is the big opening to the show. And then she never uses that again. Secondary to that thing in the same point. This is a nitpick. This is absolutely a nitpick, but I studied physics, so this annoyed me. So so she throws the knives at Indara, and Indara slices them with the lightsaber, and they fall vertically. Right? The remnants of the knives, they fall down. The problem is May has thrown them with momentum, and she sliced it with a lightsaber. That should still be carried forward. Like they should drop behind her, and it's like that is 100% a nitpick. And I don't want to focus on things like this as like oh fuck, this show is so bad because of this. It's just like these are little attentions to detail that kind of just build up your world, you know, where it's like if she sliced that, because there's the whole like why don't Sith just use guns, or like why don't clone troopers just use guns on Jedi? You know what I mean? Like normal human guns, like from this world.
Yeah.
Because if you slice it with a Jedi, it would just turn into shrapnel. And that's kind of what these knives are as well. It's like if you slice it in the middle, it might turn into a few fragments, but it would be cooler if they still carried that momentum behind, you know, where it's like, oh, she cuts it, but then she dodges it, like the slithers or whatever, you know. But
Mhm.
they just kind of, she slices it and it just drops, and it's just one of those things where it's like, I'll never unsee that now that I've thought it up, and it's like all these little like intricacies, you know, these little like things and scenes. It's like it's
They add
emblematic of a
up.
bigger problem.
They add up for sure. Like, because like to compare to like a show like Andor, like I can't remember any nitpicks from Andor, but like if there was one, we kind of give it a pass because everything else is so good. You know what I mean? So it's just like, whereas it's a nitpick
Yeah.
would stand out in a show like this because everything is just freaking terrible. So it's just like
Yeah,
they
and like
just
I say,
stand out so much.
it probably won't bother most people. And to be honest, it doesn't even really bother me too much. It's just more like it's just something I noticed and I didn't like it. So
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lose sleep over it. But um, the intro itself with Indara's death, I think is fine. The problem is we don't know anything about this character. Obviously, the point in the whole thing is the shock value of seeing a Jedi be killed, right? That's the point. By someone without, like, a lightsaber. That's what the scene is doing for us as an intro. The problem is, we don't see anything from her later on in the series that gets you to like her. So it's not even like on a rewatch, you're like, oh, that's a shame. Because she has fuck all to do. And realistically, you would have had the same effect if you just went after another Jedi. I know that doesn't line up with what the story is, but like you could have had May take down a Jedi who knows where Indara is, and she gets the information out of her and then kills her, and that could be your scene, right? And then you get more time with Indara, you know. But to kill off one of your main plot points, like your main character motivations, in the first scene is very, very strange, especially when the marketing was very focused on Carrie Ann Moss. And that's kind
Yeah.
of like a bad taste in your mouth already, you know. I
Yeah.
will say I did like the fight as it was choreographed most of the time. I'm pretty positive on the fight in general. I don't know you. I know you have other thoughts on that. If you want to,
I don't like the whole Terminator freaking dodging. You know what I mean? Just like this very stilted like step over, whatever you want to call it, you know. Whereas like May's like all back and back. I don't mind her version. I think she's totally fine. It's Carrie Ann Moss, and even Saul does it as well in episode 2, I think. It's just the way they move and stuff. It's like, mate, you're not Vader. You know what I mean? Like you guys look like quite agile. You know, like you don't need to freaking just like do this really stilted stiff dodge. You know, it's just like, to me that's like character things though, where it's just like, why are you moving like that? You know, like I get like, oh, you're so in tune with the Force, like you don't need to put too much effort in. It's just like, you compare it to like Obi-Wan or Anakin back in like the prequels, even like Qui-Gon, like they're all like freaking swift. You know what I mean? They're not like stiff. But anyway, but to go to your point about like killing her off, I don't mind the idea of killing her off. It's just, the issue is, it's like, what's your goal? Your goal is to like put a statement on May, like, okay, she can kill a Jedi without killing, without weapons, essentially, right? Except for the little throwing knives. Um, but you're also trying to build up this Jedi as like, oh, she's like one of the best in the Order. But, like, but she dies like that. You know what I mean? It's not even like it was like a really intense duel or whatever. She just gets freaking decoyed. You know what I mean? So it's just like that's the best your Jedi I've got. You know what I mean? So that's just automatically negative in my view. If you're trying to set up May to be like this badass freaking killer, look at Mando in his intro. He doesn't kill anyone like crazy, like he doesn't defeat anyone or kill anyone that's like at a high regard. He just beats up some thugs, but he just looks freaking badass doing it. You know what I mean? It's just like you're automatically like, okay, this guy's cool and he's badass and he's deadly. You know what I mean? So let's not mess with him. Whereas like, but you've not like sacrificed other characters in the meantime. You've only bigged him up. You
yeah,
know. So but with May, you've completely destroyed this Carrie Ann Moss. I can't remember her name. I actually forget her name.
Indara,
Indara. You've
Master
completely
Indara. Yeah.
ruined like all it's like all the mystery behind her. It's like, okay, she's died like that then. Like, okay, like
Treat her
she
like a
sucks
schmuck.
then.
She doesn't even get
Yeah.
grazed. She just gets hit in one. You know what I mean? Like break
Yeah.
her down maybe over the course of the fight, and that's the
Mhm.
last blow. But the fact that it's like one and done is quite like, well, it's really unsatisfying.
Yeah. And like, I
Um,
only bring up these big points because I think it sets up a big thing for what the Jedi are going to be kind of viewed as, is just kind of schmucks, like you
yeah.
say, like, you know, just like, okay, even the best ones.
I will say as well. I think the production in that bar scene and the lead up to it when she's walking through the street, all pretty good.
Yeah.
May, her line of dialogue, and she does it to Torben as well, is like, "Give me your strength, all of your strength, hit me with all your strength or whatever." That is fucking cringy as shit. That is really cringe. And the problem is, and I kind of got this vibe in my head of the whole show, and I kind of looked at it through that lens, so that might be tainting the way it works. It's to me, this show, a lot of the dialogue is written as if it come from like a bad anime. It's like a weird adaptation of like a Japanese like manga, and they've just like brought it into English and not really touched up the words. It seems like someone who didn't speak English wrote these lyrics. Wrote this dialogue and stuff like that. Because
Yeah.
like she kind of does this weird pose and she goes, give me, attack me with all your strength," and you're just a fucking loser. It doesn't sound cool, you know. You don't have any presence behind that, and obviously part of that's delivery. I thought I get in my head a lot of the time with this dialogue and the way things are delivered is like, you don't want to give that another take. Like the line might be fine, I don't know, but
Yeah.
you don't want to give that another shot. You don't want to try it a different way. It just did not land at all. And this is supposed to be her.
It's the presence though, right? Because like if you look back at A New Hope, you could argue some people are saying cringy stuff as well. You know what I mean? Like Darth Vader being like, "Oh, back then I was the apprentice, but now I'm the master," or whatever he says. It's like that could be considered cringe, but it's because it's Vader and his presence and his voice make it sound cool. You know, whereas if you give it to like this tween character, to be like, "All right, mate, grow up." You know, it's like it's all it all matters. You know what I mean? Because like let's not pretend like Star Wars is a bit cringe at times. You know, look at the prequels. There's a lot of bad dialogue in there, lots of it. You know,
100%.
but we give it a pass because Anakin's cool, Obi-Wan's cool.
Well,
you know,
and there's a
Palpatine's
good
cool.
point. There's a good point in there as well, is that when we're having a go at this show, we're not also just like relieving previous Star Wars of all its problems as well. Like there's a
Yeah.
lot of dialogue in the prequels I don't like. There's some dialogue in the originals I don't like. You know, like
All over the place.
yeah.
But it's also part of the charm. You know what I mean? Like
This
you
is
know?
2024. This is not 1977 and
Yeah.
a short like a independent film, quote unquote. This is, and like George Lucas's dialogue, that's not his strength. But this is a writing team. This is no longer George Lucas. This is a writing team in 2024 with some of the biggest budget on the planet for a TV show.
Yeah.
It needs to be better.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll get off that. Anything about the bar scenes in particular you want to comment on before we move on?
I mean, to riff off Robert's thing, I don't think it was enough to like make me stop watching the show, but like it was fine.
true.
It was fine. I didn't love it, but I was just more just like okay. Like,
Well, I guess
interesting.
at the time as well, you don't realize who Indara is, so it's maybe not as
But also at the time you didn't know she was going to be in the show after this, so you're kind of pissed off. You're like, oh my god, like she was all over the
Yeah.
advertising, and now she's just dead. You know?
So I can confirm on a rewatch, it doesn't have any more weight to it really.
Yeah.
Okay, I've got a few positive points here actually. I liked seeing the Trade Federation people again. I thought they looked a bit strange, but I don't think they looked bad. I don't know.
But did they speak in the accent? I don't think they did. And
Uh,
that takes me out because that's how they speak. So and they were like, that's offensive now. But it's like, no, it's not. That's just how they speak in the world of Star Wars. They don't do there are two of them. You know, they don't
never
speak like
noticed
that
that,
in it. They
actually,
just
but,
spoke like normal freaking dudes. You know, which again takes me out of the world building
Okay.
because
yeah,
you've
never
set this
caught that,
up.
but yeah, you
You
mean.
know? I remember that sticking out to me. Just like, why are they not speaking like that anymore? Like, I'd be like if the Gungans came back and they don't sound like freaking Jar Jar
Mm.
Binks. Like they should all be sounding like that. But yeah, anyway. They look cool though. I like seeing them.
And there's a scene just after that where yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, it's nice to see like a few callbacks like that as well, especially early on. And then the scene after that when Osha's out. I mean, obviously there was a big outcry, and to be honest, we're not really going to touch on the big outcries of oh my god, fire in space and oh Kiarimundi, but like,
yeah.
I actually like the scene that's in though, the fire scene. I know it doesn't make sense, and that should annoy me because I just brought up a physics problem before, but like, fuck you. The scene where Osha's staring into the fire and she kind of gets lost up in like, oh, the temple burned. Obviously, we didn't know that at the time, but like that her home burned down. I actually think that's actually shot all right, and it's a pretty decent scene. It's like decent foreshadowing for like what's to come. So I'm not just shitting on this whole thing. There are decent scenes in this as well. I'm trying to be fair to it, you know. And then I had a note that because I had only just rewatched, I never noticed on the first rewatch. Does Osha ever use her skills as a mech neck again? She does actually in a few episodes. There's a few times where she does like fix things or give people pointers on like how to fix things. And it kind of comes back later when Saul asks May to Saul asks May to fix the ship, and she can't do it. But obviously Saul thinks she's a mechanic because it's Osha. So I actually did like that they kind of set up that she has a bit more of a kind of mechanic streak to her, where she can maybe fix technology and stuff like that, and she's quite at home with technology. I don't know where that basis comes from based on her upbringing, but she might just be naturally inclined. But yeah, that does come up. My next note is just the Green Jedi. So Finestra looks like the Grinch in some scenes, but I like the face she pulls. She absolutely does look like Jim Carrey in makeup. I don't know why, but that just made me laugh. This is a nitpick. There will be well, I guess there's nitpicks in here as well. They put a guy with like massive tentacles that can like attack guards through the bars in a cell where he can reach through the bars and attack guards, which just annoyed me. And Osha, they kind of do it. This is a point I had, and it's Osha can't force pull Pip in this episode, but we're expected to believe she can force choke Saul, a Jedi Master, in about 3 days' time.
Right.
They kind of do a throwaway line in episode 6 that explains this. I don't think it particularly works. I think that line is to try and explain that problem that I've just put down on paper. But Kamir does give a line in episode 6 where he says, like, oh, because Osha says, if you don't use the Force, it fades over time. And obviously we've seen that with Luke, and we've seen that with Kenobi. Kamir says, oh, that's like the Jedi way. I can teach you other ways, you know, where it doesn't fade. I think that's a big load of bollocks, but at least it doesn't make... at least it's consistent with its own show, I guess, but I'm not particularly satisfied with that answer either. Because I kind of like you have to earn your dues, you know? Obviously there's talent involved with people like Luke, but... and Anakin, but Anakin was also a trained Jedi, you know? And then she tries to save the prisoner as well on the ship, the one with the parasite in his mouth. So we see that she's kind of a natural protector, and she's got this natural like moral compass in her, you know, which really doesn't line up with where she ends up in this show, because we see her like saving people she doesn't need to save here, and to her own detriment, you know, at the start of the season. But we never see that arc happen. It just kind of switches like a switch, and I noticed that really abruptly when I went back and watched, knowing where she ends up at the very end of this with Kamir as his apprentice. There's no real gradual or like moment where she's like, oh, I don't need to be that person anymore. I don't need to like put myself last anymore. It just kind of fades. But it's really odd to build her up as a kind of positive force within this and then never really address that in any meaningful way. The next one's a nitpick. I jump in as well if you have anything to comment on these. I'm just rattling down. You can put your hand up in class. I'm just going to town. They found the prisoners on the escape pods of this massive crash ship, but they didn't find the ship itself. That kind of annoyed me. I'm like, because they're like, oh, she's definitely dead, but we found all these prisoners, and it's like, but surely you were at that planet already. Why didn't you go look for her then? It's like, I don't know, because they have a line about like probe droids, but I'm like, surely it's easier to find the massive ship than it is to find these little escape pods. Because like the whole point in like A New Hope was this little escape pod, no one can find it, and then they find it in the desert. You know what I mean? And it's like there's a bit of time in between there. It's like I don't know. It just kind of annoyed me. The other thing is that crash looked fucking terrible. The one on was it Karlak or something like that, the snow planet. That ship coming in the atmosphere looked fucking dreadful, and the sound design, I'm calling it aside, the sound design here was dreadful as well. It had no weight behind it. It felt like they'd taken all the bass out of the crash, and it just felt so limp, and like the physics didn't really look right. And I don't know any circumstances behind where they overworked. I know that's a general yes for the industry right now, but did not look good. And actually, there's a few crashes in this that don't look good either, so I don't know what the problem is, but they don't look good. And the other point is, this is more of a plot one, I guess, is why did they even bother putting Osha on a transport with other prisoners? Because Yord already went to see her and then returned to the Jedi Temple. And then they put her on a transport and then it goes down over a different planet. It's like, well, if you were going to her planet and then, or if you were going to the ship and then coming straight back to the Jedi Temple, why didn't you just bring Osha in with you? There's no explanation there. Like why Yord just didn't bring her on his ship. because he went straight
Yeah.
back to the temple. The next scene is him in the temple. So like, there's no real reason for her to ever be there anyway. Like to go missing.
So,
There's just
so I
there's a
mean,
lot of
the character decisions are all over the place because it's like, right, we've
yeah.
just arrested this person that we assume has killed one of the most powerful Jedi in our order. Let's just put her in a ship with droids. It's like, what? Like, how? But you
How
got
about
to Coruscant, fine. So
yeah?
it's like,
How
it's
about
like you're
how about
saying, like,
the Jedi
just
Master you've got on your ship? How about you put her in handcuffs and you bring her in yourself? It doesn't make any.
yeah,
He apologizes it for later, but he doesn't give any explanation. He just says, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't do that." Well, why didn't you do that? Like what?
idiot.
The only reason I can give is that it's filler because they couldn't fill out a whole first episode, so they had to have in a 5-10 minute segment where she went missing, and they had to go find her again. Because this kind of comes up again when May and Osha swap places in like episode 6,
Right.
is that they swap places, but May doesn't achieve anything when she swaps places. It just nothing happens. Obviously, the motive behind that is they want to give Osha time with Kamir, but they don't give any explanation really for why. Like May obviously wants to kill Saul, but then she doesn't, and then he just he just knocks her out. So there's a lot of like time waste in here where it's like, why don't you just have? Because the thing is, in that scene, that's way later on. In that scene, May's already knocked out, and then she wakes up and knocks out Saul. Why don't you just have Osha run off? Like have the big reveal there or something like that. That oh, Saul killed your mum. Osha runs off to the Sith. They leave, and then Saul just takes May, and this uses that as its opportunity to tell her the truth or all the things he wanted to say. But to have this whole like plot thing of like, oh, let's knock out my sister and replace her. It just seemed like a total fucking waste of time because she didn't do anything. And this kind of is like that as well, where it's like character motivations just seem to be like pushing for time. It doesn't seem like there's enough here to last even the short episodes we're getting. But yeah, that really annoyed me. And Yord and Osha are really pally on their first meeting, which is it's really awkward to see. And you might have to go back and watch. Not that you will, but you'll go back and watch this. The first time Yord meets Osha, he's like, "Oh, how you doing? You know, oh, we've got. By the way, we're arresting you because you killed Jedi. But how you doing? You know, it's all good." And oh, she's like, "Oh yeah, I'm all good." And they're all pally and everything. And it's like, "Oh, remember when we were Jedi? Yeah, I remember when we were Jedi." And then they never talk like they never talk to each other like that the whole rest of the season. It's like they filmed that first and went, "Oh, wait a minute, oh, that's not what we want to do," and then they just didn't fix it. But it's really, really abrupt and it's really strange because no one talks to her like that again. And it's like, okay. So just take that scene out. I don't, or like change that. But and also there's a weird thing with like this kind of comes into episodes 5 and 6 as well with the fight with Kamir. Is that they were keep referring to Osha as, oh, get the civilian to safety, or like when they find Osha on the cliff when she falls off and Saul rescues her in this episode 1. Like Yord yells like "Stop in the name of the Republic," and it's like, but that kind of feeds into just what I was saying. Like he was treating her like a person before. When they were in the room together, they were chatting as if they were pals, and now he's yelling at her like "Stop in the name of the Republic," as if it's a stranger. And then like they're referring to her as a citizen later, as if she's a stranger, and it's like, but you were just having a heart to heart with her. Like what? it doesn't make any sense. Like it really will put me. Yeah, it's just really strange to see. There's just like it seems to be no consistency with their relationship. I will say. I did like I like Yord's yellow lightsaber, and I like that he
It's
uses
unique.
it for like light and stuff like that
Yeah.
throughout the series because he uses it here and he uses it in the forest as well, and that's obviously like the first time I encountered that I guess properly was like the Jedi Fallen Order and Survivor games, but I like that that's kind of like a thing that he uses. It's quite nice to see.
I honestly don't mind his look either. Like of all like the sort of human Jedi, I think he's the most like unique looking,
Yeah.
but not in a way where it's weird. It's like no, he's like he looks like a strong dude who could, freaking beat people up if need be. I don't like
Yeah.
his personality at all. Like you say, he's very inconsistent all over the place, all the gaff. He just kind of molds into whatever the scene needs. But
Yeah.
as a look, I'm not fussed. I know people complain about the new haircut that everyone has nowadays, but like, it doesn't bother me honestly. So yeah, I thought he was fine.
Yeah, I probably agree with that. Yeah, I don't have anything. I actually liked him a little better on the second watch, but again, I don't think it's enough, especially because he goes out halfway through. Okay, so this is the big finale. This is probably the biggest issue with the first episode, I guess, for me, is the kind of flash to the unknown planet with Kamir and May. And he gives that speech, he gives that spiel of like, a Jedi needs the dream, and you're an acolyte, and you destroy the dream. That is peak bad anime dialogue. That's what I'm talking about when I say like bad anime dialogue. This is like really cringy, really badly delivered, like a poem. It's like, what the fuck is this? This is not cool, and it's not. It's just edgy. It gives me like My Chemical Romance vibe, like fan like vibes, like emo vibes. It's like, nah, it doesn't work. And there's a line in that spiel that he says, that says, if you attack a Jedi with a weapon, you will fail. Steel and lasers have no effect on them. Even though, at the very beginning of this episode, we just saw that she killed a Jedi with steel. She killed it with a dagger. So what the fuck does that line mean? I don't know.
I don't understand. Like, because, like, why is this an important part of your whole, like, motivation? You know, like, don't kill Jedi with, like, you need to kill them with a weapon. Why? They never
Well,
explain why
it's
that's
like,
important.
I think it's implied it's a rite of passage to become a Sith, right? But
Frick that makes Sith kill no matter what. Like, no matter what. Like, they'll use any means they
no, I mean
need.
like
You know what I mean?
I mean,
It's stupid.
once you become a Sith, you start to like kill Jedi with like lightsabers. But the first time to be inaugurated as a Sith, I think that's what they're getting at.
It's so dumb though, because like, how you expect like this random lassie to kill 4 Jedi Masters without a weapon? That's like that's asking a bit too much. You don't think? You know what I mean? Like, Jesus Christ! But I know what
Well,
they're doing. They're trying to set up for the very finale where she chokes Saul out.
yeah.
It's like, oh, that's what they were meaning. But from what I've seen online, people are saying, oh, that's the first time a force choke has ever been used in canon. I'm like, no way. Like what? Like.
I don't
But then
think
how
there's
did
enough.
you expect to kill them? You know,
I don't
it's like-
see. I don't think there's enough proof either way to tell right now
Yeah.
whether that's the case or not. But so I'm not going to comment on that particularly. But
Surely not, though.
but just even with the internal logic of this show, the line reads, "If you attack a Jedi with a weapon, you will fail. Steel and lasers have no effect on them." You know. But we've seen May kill her with steel in this episode in Dara. It's like this isn't some logical inconsistency with canon. This is a logical inconsistency with not only the own show, its own episode. You know, this is not good stuff. And actually, the next note I have is that the show should be called The Acolyte because it just completely gaslights you to its own like happenings.
No, fair. Fair.
And the characters gaslight you, and the show gaslights you, and it doesn't work. So the title of this episode may well be The Acolyte. It is funny. I'm glad. I'm glad you like it. I'm proud of that. I'm fucking proud of that, I tell you.
No, it's good. It's good.
Right. That's all my notes for episode 1. Anything you disagree with, agree with, want to edit? I know, like you say, it's hard to remember because I wouldn't have.
Like, yeah, I
half the
think the
shit,
nitpicks, like people will complain about like the fire. It's like whatever. Like
Yeah.
I'm not gonna let that. But like I said earlier, the nitpicks stand out more because there's nothing else to like win people over. So it's just like I can understand. I don't understand why people think Saul was like the sick character this early on. Nothing really to him except like he's just a good guy, you know, at least for now that we know about.
I think he's probably the closest to what you expect. Like you said earlier, he's kind of the closest to what we expect of a Jedi. So probably that alone is probably quite a
Yeah,
positive.
they were clearly trying to give like a Qui-Gon vibe. It was like this guy who doesn't necessarily believe the council and stuff like that. He's kind of got his own way of doing things, whatever. But yeah, no characters stand out. Don't really care about the story. I understand why people dropped out first episode in just because it's not. It's kind of nothing.
I think.
You know.
Do you want to give a quick comment on that about dropping out? Because we obviously have seen the whole show, but we discussed this last night in private. If you were watching this and you didn't just finish it, like follow it through because I found it quite funny to watch, but if you were just watching this for investment, I personally would have dropped out after episode 3. That's when I would have called it and just stopped watching.
Yeah, 100%.
I think you're the same, yeah.
Yeah, because that's the one that's borderline offensive to like the fandom, you know. So it's just like, you know, and it's just like extra cringe, and all the character motivation is out the window. So it's just like you've really got no reason to keep watching.
And it starts to get worse from that point. I honestly think the first 2 episodes, especially episode 2 might be after the big fight episode, might probably be the most passable episode of this. Maybe along with, I don't know.
Okay.
I think because early on there's nothing egregiously bad. There's obviously, like, say we've been through episode 1. There's a few there's nitpicks and there's a few things where I'm a bit like, why are you doing that? There's weird character motivations, but nothing that breaks it. Episode 3 like kind of breaks it, but and episode 7 is episode 3 again, so that breaks it. But we'll get to that. Right, episode 2 then. Funny line of dialogue. There's been a break-in. And then the next shot is they pan up to an open topped roof. I'm like, yeah, because there's no barrier here. Like anyone can jump in that
Right.
hole. Like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
And that's how she escapes. And it's like, all right, fine. Um, yeah, and I think this is where Osha gets like her kind of mech neck like development because Daphne King character, she's having trouble with the power on the ship or something, and Osha just kind of butts in. She's like, "Oh, do this, like try reset this," and I'm like, "There, you're giving her a little like moment, you know, of like, oh, she has a specialization that's not integral to the plot. Just like if this character, if the inciting incident of this show didn't come along, what would Osha be doing? Oh, she'd be a mechanic. So it's nice to like kind of bring that back into the show just to remind
Yeah.
you, oh yeah, she has these like techniques, these tricks up her sleeve. So positive for that. I'm a bit confused as to because this is where we get our introduction to Kamir. We don't learn his name because he's just like he's the plucky kind of. He's a very anime character at this point as well, to me anyway. He's like the kind of plucky like sidekick, you know. Um, he's the guy in the chair a little bit, but
Yeah.
and he's like goofy and he acts goofy. He's clumsy, very anime to me. But I'm just a bit confused as to his situation on this planet because he's like an apothecary, right, in town. So presumably everyone in this town knows who owns the apothecary. He's turned up on this alien planet, killed the bar owner or the apothecary owner. Where's his? Because there's a comment. He says, "Oh, this is the owner's clothes." So he's presumably it's implied that he kills the owner, wears his clothes, and is sleeping in this apothecary in the middle of town, and no one brings that up. All these people that should be like it's like a local market town. They should be familiar with the building that this is, and he's in plain sight in someone else's bar, and I'm like, what the fuck? Like how has he done this? You know, like
Yeah.
why does no one bring this up to like an authority? You know, really strange.
The thing like I would point out is like again like character decisions and stuff. It's just like why is he pretending to be this idiot for May? Who because I'm assuming like at this point May doesn't know who her master is, which is weird in itself. But like so like why is why is he doing that?
I think
You know.
what I took away from it is that he's trying to keep tabs on her without overshadowing her as a master. He's trying to like be close to her in case stuff does go down. But um, the other thing is like, why do you need the apothecary? Can you not just like, because like, you know what I mean? Because the whole reason he's in an apothecary, so later on, May can come back with the bunta and say, I need a poison, can you make me a poison? And he reaches over the bar and goes, oh yeah, I can make you a poison. That's why he's in an apothecary. But like, you don't need this to happen. You can just have them be working in the shadows, not be seen, and then go steal something from an apothecary. And you don't have this problem that I just brought up. But like, there's a lot, like, that's what I mean, it's weird that he's like in this apothecary in a local town and no one wonders why the owner is gone. Really
Yeah.
strange. I think that's my. You might disagree with like what I've just said. With like that's why he's pretending. That's my interpretation of why he's pretending is that he's trying to
Yeah.
keep tabs on her without being so present to kind of oversee her.
It's just like because a lot of people kind of guessed he was going to be the villain anyway, but it's just like I don't want to see my main villain look like an idiot. You know what I mean? It's just like I get the twist. Is like, oh, the idiot. He's actually like this really scary OP guy. But it's just like it
Okay.
just means I've always gonna have this like view of him of being this klutz. You know what I mean? It's just like it's not good. It's
Well,
not good.
and
I don't like it.
I think it's supposed to have the kind of element of like Master of Disguise, right? That's kind of what they're
Yeah,
going
but
for.
if you compare it to like Palpatine in the prequels, you know, he's still like he's not
Decorum.
he's not an idiot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's still acting the part. You know, you don't need to be this. Yeah, I get it. They did it for the twist, which nobody cared about anyway. But like,
Exactly.
yeah, I get the decision for it though.
I think a more important point about Kamir and May at this time in the series is there's no explanation as to like why, like what her relationship to Kamir is before she realizes he's the Sith. Like,
Yeah,
why does she think her master has put this weirdo wacko guy on the mission with her? Why has he done that? Like, why does she think that he wants to kill Jedi? Because, like, you know what I mean? Like, they're doing like black market dealings. These guys are like fugitives. You know what I mean? They're not allowed within the Republic if they're trying to kill Jedi. So what does she think his motivation is at this time? He just seems to be there just to help her. And obviously we don't have any backstory there, and that might be something that's like maybe explored or something. But like, it's a shame we didn't get that in the series where it's like we understand why these two are working together. He's just kind of there. And if we had a more of an explanation as to why May thinks he's there, that maybe would have helped the twist where it's like, oh, maybe a Jedi like killed his family too or something. And he's like, oh, I don't have the Force, so I've dedicated myself to like taking them out in other ways, sabotage and stuff like that. That would have been cooler. But the fact that it's just like nothing and they just kind of like expect you to go along with, oh, this Sith Master has employed just this goofball to go along with this apprentice, it just doesn't really make much sense to me.
Yeah. Yeah. No, for sure.
And probably a bigger point, and obviously this is it's kind of strange, things just kind of happen, is Torben. Because we don't know anything about Torben at this point. Again, like Andara, we don't know anything about him. And all we know about him is that he put up this force field 10 years ago, so he's obviously like trying to hide from something.
I'm
and
confused
then-
with why is he not on Coruscant if he freaking loves it so much? Why is he not just chilling on bloody Coruscant?
If he's useless in the middle of bumfuck nowhere, why is he even there again? Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
But my bigger point with him is that obviously it's kind of another loser cop-out death where there's no fight. He just drinks poison willingly. One, why didn't he just do that himself? Like, if you're going to kill yourself after 10 years of meditating, why not just skip the 10 years of meditating? If you can't bear it, But then, I guess the whole point they put forward is like, he wants May's forgiveness. But why does he want May's forgiveness? What did he do? Because when it comes to
anything,
when it comes to the flashback episodes, Saul kills the mum.
yeah,
Like Torben didn't do anything. Like the only thing he did was,
Mm.
I guess what he did was maybe initiate it by going there. But they were already on the planet. They were already there. Like, you know what I mean? Like there was a good argument that they couldn't have left the girls because they didn't know what was going to happen to them. So they had a moral obligation to check it out. It just seems really strange that he's got the blame on himself when he actually didn't contribute much to the problem.
If anything, he was like the victim out of the Jedi, and surely he can see that. You know what I mean? Like, Jesus Christ. Like, he was like mind controlled and everything. He was aware that he was. So it's
Yeah.
like,
And this is probably the bigger
Motivations,
problem
man.
is that what was he waiting for? Because under all the information he had at the time, Saul told him May was dead.
yeah.
So these 10 years he's been meditating, he says something like, oh, I've been waiting for this moment. I've been waiting for you to come visit, right? How did he know she was alive? Because she fell, and the only person who saw that was Saul, and he said she died, right? And how she died, how she didn't die is another problem. But why does Torben do all this meditating? Is he just doing it in case she survived? Is he just punishing himself? I don't know. But he seems like he's waiting for May to come, but no one else knows she's alive. So why would you like wait for someone to come and forgive you if you didn't know they were alive? I don't know. Maybe it's a Force thing. Maybe he's waiting for like her Force ghost or some shit to come forgive him. I don't know. But did not make
Yeah.
sense. And also just another loser death. Like just a Jedi being the heavy.
Yeah.
Just he couldn't take it. He got forgiveness and then killed himself. Loser.
But the main takeaway for me is just like, you build this up where it's like, oh my god, he killed himself. He must have done something so terrible back when they were kids, when Osha was a kid, kind of thing, or May, whatever. And then we just find out, like, yeah, he was like barely involved. It's just like,
He was just there,
well,
yeah.
it's just like, surely this should be Saul freaking taking the poison. You know what I mean? He's the one that actually
Killed the mum. Yeah.
should feel any guilt, if anyone. You know what I mean? Stupid, man. Again, motivations. It's gonna be a big common thread. It's just character motivations do not add up.
The other
to
one
their
is
actions.
in the same episode, May thinks that Osha's dead. Right?
Yeah, that's a weird one.
So why did? Because
Yeah.
obviously it makes sense that Osha thinks May's dead because Saul was the only witness and he saw her fall. So, and she forgets what happened, so she gets told by Saul, which is a totally different thing. But the only person we can trust here is Saul's word. And this is part of the problem as well. Is like, how did May survive the fall? That is another problem because we don't find out. They never show her fall, and they just show her at the tree after she's fallen down the hole. It could just be like a forced push on the floor, whatever. But like, we didn't see it, I don't think you necessarily need to see it, but it's weird that she comes into this episode and she's like, "Oh, Osha's dead." Why does she think Osha's dead? Because the last thing she saw was Osha still on the bridge. when hers fell. What grounds does she have to believe that Osha's dead?
Mhm.
I don't know.
Yep.
Never mind the fact that we don't actually know how the fuck May got off the planet, because all her coven are dead. So everyone she has to rely on is dead. We've heard that planet is uninhabited, right? So there's nothing else on that planet. How did she get off that planet as a
We
little
don't know
kid?
if
She
she
was like,
got in contact with Khmer. We don't know how that happened.
yeah,
We don't know. Yeah,
she's like a 9-year-old girl.
we don't know.
And she
Yeah.
falls down a hole and then she appears as an old woman. There's nothing in between. It does not make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Silly.
Oh yeah, and then so my next point, the Green Lady, I didn't know her name, so I guess it's Venestra.
Yeah.
So she says in this episode that she's assembled a council to strategize after Torben's been killed. She tells Saul, "No more investigation. You come back to the temple. We're going to plan out the next steps, right?" Because she sent Saul to go investigate May on this new planet where Torben was. So now there's a bunch of Jedi complicit in this lie of, because this isn't egregious at the start because we don't know where it ends. But when you go for a rewatch, Venestra ends up in this show framing Saul for the murder of all these Jedi, right?
Yeah.
Can you remember if she frames him for the murder of Indara, Kalnaka, and Torben as well, or if it's just the ones that die at Khmer's hand on Kofar?
By context, you just have to assume it's all of them, because you do still need to clear up who killed them as well. Then you know what I mean? Because that's
there
public
might
knowledge as well.
there might be a bit of ambiguity here because I don't think we actually know for sure. The way I've taken it is that you've just said is Saul is framed for all of the murders, including his old friends.
Yeah.
And the problem with that is that here Venestra says she's assembled a council, and this whole council now know that May is the actual suspect at this point. So for them after, like in the next few days, to go, oh, it wasn't May that killed, like Indara or Kalnaka, it was Saul. What do they all think about this? Because now there's like a whole there's a whole sub-council of Jedi that are now aware, including Ki-Adi-Mundi, by the way,
Yeah.
that are now
And
aware.
Yoda now, most
Well, no,
likely.
Yoda wasn't on that little mini council in that
not
room,
yet, not yet. Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So we don't know what he knows, but for sure, Ki-Adi-Mundi knows that May was a suspect in the murder of 2 Jedi. That's what he knows, right? And then a few days later, it's revealed that the Jedi standing next to him in the room is the actual killer.
And May suddenly lost all of her memories, so it can't be her. It's like, what?
And innocent, yeah. She's lost all her memories and she's innocent. So from Ki-Adi-Mundi's point of view, what the fuck happened there? 2 days ago, she was a suspect in a murder of 2 Jedi Masters, and now she's lost her memory and she's completely innocent.
Stupid.
What the fuck?
Stupid.
Which is dumb because you kind of have this whole thing on Khmer, with Khmer, where he's like, "Oh, everyone who knows me has to die," and it's like,
But
well, yeah, so everyone in that council also has to. Like,
do all the Jedi know the truth though, or is it just the Venestra?
no. I think it's Venestra and this little council she had in that room during episode 2, and Ki-Adi-Mundi is in that room.
Yeah.
So the wider Jedi Order probably doesn't know, but this sub council of people, they do know, and that includes Ki-Adi-Mundi.
I just don't understand, like, why? What evidence is there to be like, oh yes, Soul did it? What's the motivations behind him being the one killing them?
Well,
Like, there's literally no reason.
And actually, this is the funniest thing, right? If he's framed for Indara's murder, there's actually an alibi for Saul. He was given a lesson in the Jedi Temple. He wasn't on Ueda. He was in the Jedi. So what are the people who were, you know what I mean, like down the hall in a classroom, and they're like, "Oh, hey Saul, how was your lesson this morning?"
Bro,
They
I swear
thought
Venestra is the one that goes to him and be like, "Oh, your freaking friend died." It's like,
yeah.
well, it
That's
couldn't
what
be
I
me
mean.
then because I've been here.
But that's what I mean. He's been framed now. I don't know for sure if he's been framed for Indara's murder, but if he is, that's really dumb because he was at the Jedi Temple at the time of her murder. So it doesn't make any sense.
God,
And obviously, we didn't know that at the time because we didn't know he was going to be framed for the murders, but now we do.
Yeah.
So, and
Jesus
my other
Christ.
big point in episode 2 is that I don't understand how Khmer is finding these Jedi that are like posted at weird places around the galaxy. Does he have access to Jedi records? Where's he getting his information? I don't know. Because he finds Kalnaka, who we find out in the next episode has turned his transponder off for a year. Right? So he's not
Yeah.
on like the Jedi's radar. The Jedi don't even care about him enough to go find him. So
It's
how
not like
the
he's
fuck
in a
is
village, where people could report
he's,
it. It's like,
yeah,
oh, a rookie Jedi.
he's in the
Wait, no.
middle of the forest. So how did Kamir in the whole galaxy? How did he find these 4 Jedi? I mean, it makes sense because Saul's at the temple, right? Whatever. Maybe he knows. Like he's seen. I don't know. He just assumes the Jedi are there. But how does he know that? Like Indara is on Ueda. How does he know that Torben is on that planet he's on and stuff like that? It's like we don't find out any of this information. They just gloss over it. And like we only find out in episode 4, there's a line where Kamir says, "Oh, I've been to Kofar before," but that doesn't explain how he found Kalnaka. Where's he getting the information? Is someone in the Jedi like temple like feeding him information? Is someone working with him? That's what I thought, but never comes up again. And you could say, "Oh, well, he felt them in the Force or something like that," but it's like, well, Palpatine couldn't find Yoda or Obi-Wan, so no.
Right.
But yeah, really strange. I mean, Indara is more defensible because she's in like civilization. Maybe you send someone around and you're like, "Oh, Master Indara, have you heard of
Yeah,
her?"
there's been
But even
reports.
then,
Yeah.
yeah. But like but Kalnaka, absolutely not. He's a hermit in the woods, right?
Yeah.
Like, how did he find Kalnaka? Doesn't make any sense. Unless there's like a Jedi mole. Unless there's a mole, you know. But they never set up that tension of like, oh, is there a mole in the Jedi Order?
Mog.
That's my episode 2.
Mog's the mole.
I'm gonna try and pick up the pace because this is gonna get long, I think.
Just get to just big moments, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I'll
big-
skip over
big
little
standard
things.
bits. Yeah.
Episode 3, a full episode flashback after a kind of so-so episode
Yeah.
is really, really bad pacing because it's
And
just
keep in
completely.
mind, the first 2 came out the same day.
That's true.
You know what I mean? So this was like the first, second
Solo
week, if you know
episode.
what I mean. First week.
Yeah, and it's really the problem is with this episode is it's trying to I think it's trying to pad out time to give you time for the mystery reveals because it's obviously just withholding information from you, which doesn't create mystery. It just makes me annoyed because there's no real reason to hide this information from us because the reveals aren't particularly interesting. And
yeah,
one line I had here. This is again looking back on the show because we didn't notice at the time, but. If the girls are the same person, divided, why are their natural personalities and tendencies so different? There's no explanation to that because they make a point later of these girls aren't twins. It's not like they're born at the same time and they have the same genetic code. They are identically the same person.
Well,
so
I thought they were going to do a yin and yang type of thing where it's May incarnated all of the dark energy from this being and Osha took that, but that's not the case. Because May's inherently more sinister, the first time we see her as a child, she's freaking breaking a bug, freezing in time, whatever. And Osha's just sort of vibing, So it's that's kind of what I thought the twist was going to be, something like that. But no,
Me too,
it just wasn't.
But then even I was saying earlier, because obviously in this episode we see that when May burns down the stone castle, Osha hot wires the door to get out. So she obviously has a natural knack for technology that we don't see from May, So there's things and we haven't been shown that she's a mechanic on this planet or anything, they're just little kids. So I don't understand why they have different personalities if they're not twins. If they're supposed to be the same person, I don't even know what that means because they didn't do anything with it. But if they are the same person, why do they have different personalities? That could be something they explore later on. There's a lot of things in here, and I'll hopefully pull them up when I'm oh, it's ambiguous because we haven't seen enough yet. They might explore some season 2, God forbid. But yeah, it doesn't make sense as is to me anyway. If they're the same person,
that's true.
The mum makes this is a nitpick, I guess, but the mum uses a line. This is part of the Acolyte. You can add this to the Acolyte list. Is that the mum goes, "Some use the Force as a weapon," and then spends the next 2 minutes teaching the girls how to Force push people. And I'm like,
yeah,
you're not using the Force as a weapon right now, the power of 2.
Yeah.
And then
now I do want to bring up about the witch cult. I've not got an issue with a cult existing that uses their own version of the Force. Right? I don't mind that at all because there's always been that. You know what I mean? There's always been these weird cults. Think of what's his name from Rogue One?
Oh,
the
Chirrut
blind
Imwe.
one.
Yeah,
True
Chirrut.
it, yeah. Like he had his own sort of like fascination with it. It wasn't exactly Jedi. It was his own sort of religion. That he obeyed by. And then you've got the witches of Dathomir. Who've got their own concept as well. You know what I mean? And I'm sure back when they first were brought in, there was a similar thing of like, oh, I don't like this. I don't. It's magic's weird. We don't want to have magic in Star Wars, whatever. And in every sort of trilogy, we have a new interpretation of the Force, where it's like, okay, Obi-Wan's going to explain it this way, Yoda's going to explain it this way, Qui-Gon's going to do this, whatever. There's always been like different versions. I've never cared about that because I think it's always just a what you think it is. That's probably what it is. It's all vaguely the same. So I'm not cared about that. It's how I don't understand how. Are we supposed to back these witches? Like, are the witches good guys or are they bad? Are the Jedi bad in this situation?
Well, and
That's what I'm confused
this is
about.
kind of my next point as well, is that the mum has a lot of lines where she says something and then kind of displays the exact opposite, which is where my gaslight line started to come into it.
Right.
Because the next line I've got here is, someone consider our power dark. So obviously she's like, oh, the Jedi think that we are dark side users and that we're not to be trusted. Then, in the next scene, she takes over Torben's mind unprovoked. And they're doing twilight rituals in weird dresses, and they're maybe sacrificing little girls, and they're creating life from nothing, and they're like chanting as if they're like a nighttime cult, and they're branding their own children with symbols, and like it's clearly a cult, like occult, not just a cult, but like occult practices. And she's like, someone consider our power dark, and it's like, yeah, no fucking shit, because if you came across that in the woods, you'd shit your pants. Like,
yeah.
what are you on about?
Yeah.
Another line, she says no violence as the Jedi walk in, because obviously the other mother, I forget her name, Coral, Mother Coral.
No,
Don't know
we're
how
talking
to
about bad actors. She's up there.
Oh, she has some great lines. She has some great lines. Stay in tune for episode 8, 7 and 8. But she's like Mother Torben, Mother. Oh fuck, what is that her name? No, Mother Venestra. No, Anasea, Mother Anasea.
Anasea, yeah.
She when the Jedi walk in, she says no violence, because obviously the other one's a bit hot-headed, and then instantly invades Torben's mind unprovoked, just at the mention of taking the children for a test. What the fuck?
Yeah.
So we've been told that she's a level head in this, that she's not wanting to provoke these Jedi, and then the first thing she does is invade his head. Doesn't make sense. Like just don't have her say no violence. I'm perfectly on board with her being a more like protective mother character, but don't give us this like gaslighting effect where it's like she's saying one thing and doing the other. Just make the actions consistent with the words. I'll buy into it, but it's just this thing of like inconsistency within a scene. Like,
it's just the world building. It's weird as well because that means she's aware that Jedi like take kids like without consent and are dangerous. They're going to start a fight. It's like that's shouldn't be what they are. Like I get it. It's 100 years before. Who knows what they're like? But based on what we've seen from the Jedi's perspective, they're not done that. So it's like, where's this whole perception coming from?
And
it's just like.
That's a good point, because that could be something interesting to investigate for this cult. Like, why?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess she kind of, with the like occult like some consider our power dark. I'm assuming there's some sort of exile. They've been like the Jedi have found them previously and invaded them or whatever. But it's just not a good look when, especially for Osha, because Osha's already not wanting to be a witch. And this is the big point that you're probably going to have a big problem with. Well, I know you have a big problem with. Is that the witches' coven, like the leaders, may have a reason to be distrustful of Jedi. And actually, it makes sense that May would as well, because if that's what she's been brought up with, is that Jedi are bad, it makes sense she wouldn't want to be a Jedi. The problem is, Osha has presumably been raised in the same environment where Jedi have been demonized, Jedi have been told they're dangerous, you need to stay away from these people, you're not even allowed outside these walls. So why does Osha want to be one? This is the boogeyman. The boogeyman has come knocking at the door, and Osha says, I want to join him. We have no context for what Osha thinks of Jedi. We have no context for what she even knows about Jedi. We know later on that she knows what lightsabers are because she points them out to May, right? She says, oh, look how they wear their sabers, right? So she knows what the lightsabers are. But then on the ship, she asks Torben if all Jedi get lightsabers. So she's unsure. So it's like, does she know what lightsabers are or not? I don't get it. Like, and this is what I mean. This isn't like breaking canon. This is just inconsistencies within the same episode. So like,
the annoying
what?
thing is, there's an easy fix because it's like later on she says like
Okay.
I can't remember if it's either her mum or her sister, where she's like, I don't want to be a witch, I don't want to be here. You know what I mean? I want to explore the world and stuff. Make that your way in. Don't say like, oh, I want to be a Jedi. It's just like, oh, this should be her way. That's her entry level to get to what she wants. You know, just like Anakin. When we first see him, he's like, oh, I want to travel the stars. I want to go to every planet. You know. And he can do that with being a Jedi. It should have been that, not just, oh, I want to be a Jedi. You don't know what a Jedi is, mate.
Yeah.
Like, if
And
you know what
actually,
you want to be.
the exact scene that should have happened should have been Saul's little speech to Osha, where he's like, I was scared when I was your age. And like, she should have been of the same mindset of May going into the test. She's trying to lie. Because the thing is, she already goes into the test wanting to win, and the conflict comes from she's been told to lie and she won't. The problem is, that doesn't really work. Because her motivation for wanting to be a Jedi doesn't make sense. What should have happened to develop that conflict is that she doesn't like the Jedi, and she goes onto the ship of her own devices and tries to lie, like May does, and then Saul talks to her and says, "I was scared when I was your age. I didn't know what the Jedi were. They came to my home and they took me, and I was different from my family, and I came here and there was thousands of children just like me, and it became my home because the people there were like me in a way that no one else could be, you know."
Yeah.
That's basically what he says to her, and that should have been the turning point in Osha's head to be like, yeah, I do want to be this sounds good. This sounds like a Jedi. Well, I don't even know what it is, but this sounds right. You know, that's her turning point. Not before she even enters the ship. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And it would also give more weight to that scene because you've seen how she went into the ship and how she's coming out. But she already went into the ship knowing she was going to, like, you know what I mean? She wanted to pass. So, really poor writing, I think, there, for motivation at least.
Sure.
I will say, Saul's little speech to Osha is actually one of the highlights of the series for me. I actually really like that little speech.
Yeah, it's his best bit.
And actually, I think my favorite scenes with Saul are when he's de-aged.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think I don't. Obviously, there's other scenes as well, but like I think in general, I like him in the show when he's like a younger character. I would have liked to have seen more of the Jedi when Saul was younger and Torben were younger and stuff like that.
Yeah, I do really like the scene where they test them, because it's like, I mean, it's like an Anakin thing again, but I like the whole thing where she's trying to lie, and then he figures it out. But I think they make it a little bit too obvious, where it's like you could have wrote it a little bit better. But it's like, I like the idea behind that. You know, it's like she's trying to get away with it.
And then I have a little positive here, so diamond in the rough. There's a little analogy that the mom gives about hunting, about like trying to lie to the Jedi, and Osha actually like has a line back to her and is like, "Oh, but we still hunt." Like the point is that the mom's trying to put her off the Jedi, and she has like a line that is a good rebuttal. And actually, I really like that little scene, that little analogy actually worked pretty well, I thought. What doesn't work well is the next scene where the little girls are arguing, and May's like, "I can't believe you're gonna go, like fuck you," and the Osha's like, "Oh, well, I'm gonna go, fuck you and fuck mom," and and May goes, "You know what? You're not going. I'll just fucking kill you." It's like,
Honestly,
what? Like,
honestly.
she makes a point throughout the whole series that like her family is everything and this coven is everything, and then she's like, "You know what? You're gonna leave. I'll fucking kill you. I'll fucking do you in." And it's like,
Yeah.
what? She's a little girl, like, and obviously that kind of ties into like the dark side, like you were saying, like she's the yin yang sort of thing, where she's the darker half of that, and that's the natural tendency. But then obviously it doesn't end up that way. It's really strange.
But it just, I can't get behind the main character once she says that, because like, you literally said you're gonna try and kill your sister. So it's like, how are you in the right in any way, like going forward? You know what I mean? Like, no matter how you spin it, you said that. So, you know, and then you went to go to set a fire, you know, intentional or not, which was stupid its own way, but, you know, so it's impossible to get behind me.
And to be fair, I think the fire in space and all that's forgivable. The stone castle going on fire like a fucking haystack is a bit strange.
It's
I won't
just a
lie.
bit silly, yeah.
It's a bit silly. The other thing is a bit silly is that May locks the door from the outside. I don't know any doors that lock from the outside. Like, Osha's locked in a room with a fire. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, like why would you have a lock on the outside of the room? I don't know. But Again, so Osha breaks out the room, uses tech to do that. That's a nice callback, or like a foreshadow that she'll go into like a technical role. Unfortunately, we don't see where she learns that, but yeah, the stone castle's not up to code. That shit went up like a haystack. And also, why did the power generator explode? Because that's what sets off the bridge. But like, there's a fire, but we don't see the fire go into the power generator. The power generator just kind of blows up. There's no real explanation of like, oh, so and so happened. It just blows up just because there's a fire in the castle somewhere. It's really strange.
Right.
On the bridge, the girls are staring at each other, and obviously at this point we don't know what's happened, but we know that the mum's dead, and May says so. And Osha says, "What have you done?" And realistically, what May should say here is, "It wasn't me, it was Saul. Don't go with them, they killed Mama." But instead she goes, "What have you done?" Okay,
Yeah.
like, doesn't make sense.
Yep. Terrible.
Yeah, how did May survive the fall again? And then sleepy witches, because apparently they just fell asleep.
But like at this point, you're supposed to believe that the fire killed everyone, right? At this stage.
Well, yeah, but then that room's already full of dead witches, so it was implied to me that the Jedi had maybe had something to do with those witches being killed.
Or that, yeah.
And that was going to be part of like Torben's reveal. I thought Torben had killed the women in the room. That's why he killed himself. But
See, and I know we're skipping a bit, but see if like he was, it would make sense because like the mother would be the one manipulating him. But if he was manipulated into doing that, like controlled to do that, then I can see why
he
he
woke
feels
up.
guilty over it.
He woke up
So
after
it's
killing
not-
all the witches. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
but it's
Good
like, at the
stuff.
same time, it's like it doesn't. Who's manipulating him to do that? Because the mother wouldn't do that. Like kill her own people, that makes sense. But
That's
still,
a
you know,
good-
it's like.
That's a good point. Yeah,
But
but that
yeah,
yeah. Or maybe she didn't put him in a trance and controlled him. Maybe she just put him in a trance, like an angry trance to kill the Jedi, and he just like killed the witches as well, something like that, where it wasn't so much like they were controlling him. And this is when I had when I had a big hold up moment, and I wrote that. How do the Jedi know that May started the fire? Because May was downstairs with Osha in her room and started the fire alone. May then runs upstairs and sees Saul fighting the mum. And Osha comes out and meets on the bridge. No one told the Jedi that May started a fire, because only Osha knew that. And yet, when Osha wakes up at the end of this episode, Saul tells her that May started the fire, even though May never told anyone that Osha never told anyone that May started a fire. The information that May started the fire has no way of getting to the Jedi.
yeah. You know what's mad, right? I don't know, we're not even halfway through. I've never seen so many inconsistencies this far into a bloody show or any piece of media. You know what I mean? Just like, how could you be so terrible, of all these plot points?
Yeah.
Like, sure, again, this is a team of writers. Like, how is nobody like pointing this out? It's like,
And
Jesus Christ.
massive budget behind it. Like,
and it needs to go through all the checks from Disney and Dave Filoni and everything like that. How is this all getting verified? You know what I mean? Like
well, clearly it probably isn't.
it's shocking.
So episode 4 is probably the biggest filler episode of this, so I'm going to be real quick with this one.
I can't remember what happens.
This
Is
is the
where
one
she's like, "Oh, I'm gonna leave the Sith. I'm gonna be a Jedi now." So that's one.
Yes. And why don't you take
Terrible.
that away? Why don't you take that away? Because that's a big character moment, right?
Well, like, I mean, I don't remember everything like bit by bit, but it's just like, yeah, she's on her way to kill the Wookiee, which is mad in itself, but also kind of exciting because like, oh, sure, we're gonna like finally see this Wookiee fight or whatever.
Nope.
But then on the way, she just kind of changes her mind. I can't remember what exactly is the reason she changes her mind, but she's. Do you have a note on that?
My favorite bit is that she's like, you know what? I've had a walk in the woods with you this morning, and I'm really cross. And you know what? I think I'm going to betray you and betray the master. That's basically what she says. After this run in the woods, I've decided actually the whole reason for me killing all these Jedi, not valid. I'm going to turn myself into the people I was previously killing.
Yeah.
And not only that, it gets even worse because she doubles back on that again when Daphne Keane. She has the fight with Daphne Keane, so she's went to Kalnaka to say, "Oh, I'm turning myself in. Wait for the Jedi, they'll take me to the temple and I'll stand trial." And then when the Jedi do turn up, she fights them. So is she surrendering or not? Like, what? Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
I think you said this the other day. and I think it's probably true, is that May is probably one of the worst written characters for motivation, especially
She's just all over
that
the place. You
we've
can't
ever
like
seen in
follow
anything.
her. Yeah, like with characters, you're there to like almost live vicariously through them, right? You should be understanding why they're making decisions, especially when they're the lead bloody character. Like May is a lead. Her and Osha are the two leads. You know, their perspectives are both different sides of the force. So it's like it's impossible to get behind her, and when she's making decisions, they don't add up to what we know about her and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like, just
Yeah.
imagine that in like any other film. You know, it's just like Obi-Wan's like, oh, you know what? I am gonna freaking kill people or whatever. It's just like, well, okay, like why? You know, it's just or
You
like
know
if
what?
he like,
I am going to leave
you know,
Luke on Tatooine to save his little sister.
or like he's like he sees Qui-Gon and he's like he sees him die and he's like, you know what? I will join the dark side. It's like, wait a minute, we'll throw this on. You know,
These
it's
guys are
just like,
powerful.
it just feel like that. You know, it's just like it makes no sense. Or when Dooku like talks to him and he's like, oh, there's a dark side guy, and he's like, oh, you know what? Like, yeah, let's team up. It's like, yeah, it doesn't make any sense to do that. You know, they stick by their bloody characters. But that's because they're well, whether the story's written poorly or the dialogue, the characters are typically really well thought through. So that's why they make coherent sense. You know, it makes sense why Anakin turns to the dark side. It takes this long journey to do that. You know, like I can understand, even though I don't like the sequels, I understand why Kylo would go that route based on his version of the story. You know, but like with freaking May and Osha, it just doesn't. You know, it's too quick. You know, and we just don't know anything.
Try and explain to me why any of their decisions were made. Apart from they've got like some, I don't know, like BPD or something. But inside joke.
Heard enough of that today.
The,
Jesus Christ.
episode 4 as well. I think I made a comment about the pacing last episode. I think it was actually meant for this episode where we've had 2 episodes of present day, then we've had a whole episode in the past, and now we've had a filler episode in the present, which completely kills the pace for anything they built up in episode 1 and 2. Because you're not in that time, and you're not progressing in that time in the present day over 4 episodes. It's really bad. Like, and also there's a line in this quickly where Osha says, this is the conversation Osha's talking to Jecki, where she's like, oh, May's the Jedi's problem now, and I'm not a Jedi. Right. So it's like, okay, so you don't want to find your sister. You've just found out your long dead sister that you watched fall to her death is now alive, and you don't care. Okay, very strange. Right. Oh, and this is the one. This is one of these ones that actually, as soon as it was said, it in the first watch through, because a lot of these points have come up in the second watch through. The first watch through, I even noticed this one, and it annoyed me then. Saul is talking to the Green Lady and the Grinch, and she says, May won't surrender without getting something in return. Do we have something she wants? Right? And they decide that the best answer to that question is, yes, Osha. Let's get Osha because we know that they're sisters and that we can lure her in with her sister. The problem is, she's having a conversation with Saul, which is one of the targets on her fucking hit list. Do we have something that May wants? Yes, you! What do you mean? Like, you know for a fact that she's killed 2 of your partners, she's after the 3rd, and you're the 4th. Do we have something that she wants to get to? Yes, you. Why are they bringing Osha? It makes no sense to bring Osha, because, yeah, I get the point of like, oh, it's her sister, we can maybe get on her good side and bring her in. But if you just want to know where she's going to be, just put a fucking beacon that Saul's going to be somewhere. She'll come. That's her whole character motivation at this point in time before it gets changed. It makes no sense why they bring Osha. It makes no fucking sense.
It's just decisions they just need to get to a certain point, and you're like, all right, this will do.
This will do, yeah.
You know, yeah.
The other thing is they make a comment. I made a allusion to it earlier that Kalnaka's transponder went down for a year. What have they been doing for a year? No one thought, oh, we better check up on a Jedi that's not been in contact for a year. Bit strange. And then there's May betrays her entire ideology and literally goes to fess up to the police.
And then he's dead. The Wookiee's just dead, and it's freaking hot as well.
I think the worst thing, it's a strange thing as well, because obviously the whole point of May is like, oh, you want to kill a Jedi without a weapon? Why did you think if you couldn't do it with the other 2 that you would be able to do it with a Wookiee? the notoriously like
Those
resilient
humans.
species, the Wookiee. Like,
Yeah.
why would you even try it with the Wookiee? Like, kill the Wookiee with a lightsaber. Get the other one. Get the human ones with the Force.
Yeah.
She also makes there's a point here where when she betrays Chimere, she says, when I tell them about the Sith, they'll let me go, right? Because he says, why would you turn yourself in? And she says that. And why does May think that if she reveals that she's a Sith apprentice, they'll let her go? Because if she says, I'm a Sith apprentice and I have a Sith master out in the Sith, which obviously Chimere doesn't want, which sets up the next episode, that just means the Jedi are going to go, you're a Sith apprentice, you're never getting out.
Yeah.
Why would she think that that's a positive for her? I have no idea. No sense behind that dialogue. And then she has another one that's quite funny, where it's like, I don't know if the Sith Master could make it all the way out here in Kofar. And I'm like, bitch, you've encountered exactly 0 obstacles this whole trip. What couldn't he handle? Like, you've had a run in the woods. What could a Sith Master not handle here? I don't understand. You've had no bad experience on
Honestly.
this island. There's also like the reveal behind Chimere being the Sith is terrible because there's like 4 reasons, main reasons why it had to be him going into episode 5. 1, who else would it be? Because we haven't been introduced to any other characters as a red herring. 2, he's literally 10 minutes away from the fight coming up. So as soon as you reveal that he's present, that the Sith Master has killed Kalnaka already, the only other person we knows on that planet is the stranger, is the comic relief character, Chimere.
Yeah.
And 3, anytime May asks him a question, he diverts it. Any questions about the Master, he diverts it. So he's like super on the nose, the guy. And the 4th reason is like the one that seals the deal, is that May tells only Chimere that she's going to betray the Master. The Master doesn't know he's going to be betrayed. So as soon as he turns up, you know it's Chimere, because Chimere's the only person that knows she's betrayed the Master. So
Yeah.
the reveal is totally wasted because you've just thrown all the clues in way ahead of time. It's just really, really poorly done.
Yeah.
And again, there's is there anything you want to add to that whole big spiel?
I've got a positive at the end of it, but I'll wait till.
Okay, I'll finish my list then quickly.
Yeah.
They put a line in for Yord at the start of the episode where he's like, "Oh, other Jedi, they speak Wookiee. I speak a more nuanced language, the one that Basil speaks." The only reason they have that is so that the little Basil character can yell out May later on, and he can go, "May's here."
Right.
Who wrote this shit? Like, you can't just
Yeah.
call it setup just by being like one throwaway line where he's like, "I learned this language, this good language," and then he shouts, and it's like, "Oh, that's me." It's like, why couldn't he just scream and they're like, "Oh, what's up with him?" and then go run to him? Why do you need them to understand the language? It makes no sense. It's
Mhm.
like, what the fuck? Oh yeah, May turns up to surrender to the Jedi. When they turn up, she resists. What the fuck? Acolyte. Although I do have a line here that I think might help with the gaslighting, is that May's character starts to make sense when you realize her mum is the ultimate gaslighter in episode 7.
Yeah.
Is that maybe it's just genetic?
Jeez.
What do you think of the character design of? Because I have written here Darth Gimp because he has like a kind of gimp zip across his fucking face.
Yeah,
But
I'm not keen on the design. But my positive was I actually really like the presentation on the way it was shot, his entrance, when he came in. I know some people didn't, like the whole floating thing.
floats in,
Doesn't
yeah.
really bother me. Like I can buy that, you know. But I like how it was like out of what would you call it? Out of focus.
Yes.
Like behind, and the music was pretty good, and it just did look a bit creepy.
Yeah. Attention
So
was there as well.
you know, and it's like with these, like you want your villain to have cool, like except this stupid one in episode 1. Like if we're counting that as a sort of like intro, which it technically would be. You know, you want your Star Wars villains to have like good intros. Like Maul's is cool. You just see him like freaking stand behind Palpatine. It's like, oh shoot. Or
Yeah.
Vader's first in entrance, you know, from episode 4. Like you need those to like kind of stand out instantly. I think as a child, that's the reason why I didn't love Dooku too much, because like he was just kind of presented as this like old dude kind of thing. It's like, all right, you don't really get it until you grow up and like understand his backstory and stuff. It's like
Right.
then he's like a sick character, but just visually, there's nothing to it, you know. So I did like that about Chimere
Okay.
in his intro anyway. But I do agree, I don't like the helmet design. I don't like the outfit design.
think he looks
just
all
looks-
right. I mean, this might be just a nothing statement because but he looks all right in the dark. When he's fighting in the dark, you don't really notice it. It's when it's like close-ups and like lighter shots, you're like, that doesn't look very good.
Yeah.
I mean, the quality's there, just the design itself.
Hmm.
Uh,
Yeah, for sure.
one little tidbit. If I'm going to nitpick negatives, I'm going to nitpick. It's not a nitpick if it's positive. I guess it's just praise. But I like that the Jedi wait to ignite their sabers until he's ignited his.
Yeah.
I know. There's this whole thing of like they don't harm the unarmed anyway, so like makes sense. But even just in the context of like Sith fighting Jedi, to me the Jedi should rarely ignite their sabers first. They should be a more defensive force, and I like that they did that in this scene. Although
Yeah, it visually it just like shows intent. You know, whoever ignites the lightsaber first is out to
Yeah.
kill, which is interesting when you go back to episode 3 and Obi-Wan ignites his lightsaber first.
That's
because he's literally sent there to kill Anakin. So it's like that's the intent. You know, he's not there to
yeah.
convince him. Like he's already gone. You know.
That's fair
So
enough.
it's
Because I was
just-
going to say, I was
I
actually
like
going to
that.
bring up that as a negative and be like, that's actually one of the only like times I don't like that. But yeah, fair enough. That's a good
Right.
point.
Okay. Yeah. Interesting.
I never thought about it that way.
Yeah.
Especially because Kenobi is a more defensive like fighter as well. I always found that weird that he ignited his first, but yeah,
Yeah.
fair enough. There's
There's definitely
also-
an example of me not liking that though. There's definitely somewhere
Right.
out there that's happened. I can't remember.
Maybe I'll
what,
find
though.
a clip of that and that we play now. We'll see.
Maybe yes.
If it's not successful, I'm sure I'll put a little edit note.
Right.
I was trying to decide if Chimera was going to kill Osha in this fight, and because obviously we don't see the fight in this episode, and it goes to black, and that was really cheap to me, especially on a weekly basis. That should have been a 2-episode thing.
It's like a 20-minute episode as well.
Yeah, because what should have
Jeez.
happened is they should have had a bit of a fight, and then someone gets killed, and then you cut. That would have been better because you're getting a little bit, you're giving a little
If
bit,
the
and then you're left
If
on.
the Wookiee's gonna die, kill the Wookiee in that scene, you know? And it's like, oh shoot, he killed the Wookiee. Like, how are they gonna
That's the next
deal
episode.
with him?
Yeah, yeah. Good,
That's like
no,
a good cliffhanger.
good stuff. No, yeah.
Not just off screen, because like, what does that achieve? You know, it's just like,
Bro, we should be paid.
yeah, that'd be good.
You should be
That'd
paid. You've come up with a few good ideas actually. But yeah, and then so I wrote a note here saying, does Chimera actually want to kill Osha or not? And because you can't tell from this episode, the next one he does try to kill her, but he has her in his grasp in this episode, and he doesn't just stab her in front of all the Jedi, which doesn't really. He just tosses her aside, which is really strange. But yeah, that's all my notes in episode 4. So we're yeah, that's
It's my
that.
favorite episode.
Episode 5. Episode 5 is the best episode because there's the least amount of story and the most amount of action, and whenever they start talking, it gets worse. But
Yeah.
I was pretty. I think it, like you say, you had a comment when this episode came out of like it's probably going to be a bit like the Last Jedi fight where it's cool to watch in the moment, but then there's going to be problems in the background and like with like staging and people not swinging, and there definitely is that because I've like looked at it now a second time. There definitely is that, but honestly, I don't really care about that stuff honestly too much. As long as I'm invested in the fight in the moment, I'm usually into it. Obviously there might be choreographers take issue with that. That's their problem to have. I liked pretty much all the fight in this episode.
The only thing I would add is just a banging theme in the background, because that always enhances a fight for me. You know, if you've got that Duel of the Fates or Luke versus Vader or Obi-Wan Anakin. Like, I know it's not that grand, but it's like, if this is going to be your fight of the show, like, freaking make it stand out. You know what I mean? Like, Jesus.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. There's just not a lot of iconic sound bites at all in modern Star Wars. It's a shame.
And actually,
But, like you said, like, yeah, physically, the fight was sick. I thought.
Yeah. And you brought it up earlier. You said
I remember because I wanted to hate it, and I hate being that guy. But the show was so bad at this point, I was like, you know what? I really hope the fight's bad, just to pile on the shit. But it started. I was like, oh, you know what? This is actually pretty good. Like, so it's like, you know, so. But like we said at the start, I don't care about the characters fighting, so it's like it's almost wasted.
And that's the biggest downfall in this episode, right?
Yeah.
Is that like I would love to like Yard just for him to die in this episode. That would be like really good. But we've had 4 episodes with these characters. They've wasted 1 episode in a flashback, but we've had 4 episodes of this show, and we don't care about anyone. And like, name me a good film, because this is like we're getting into like film run length now with like where we are in the episodes. If this was a film, tell me a film where you don't like any character, like a good film where you don't like any character by the end of the runtime, regardless of what happens to them. You don't like them at any point. You're not invested in any of their stories. Like, it just doesn't
Yeah.
happen in a good story. So like, it's really bad. Like this series is like, I guess unassuming in the sense of like, you can hate on it or you can just take it or leave it. You know, you don't. What's the stakes really? We have a bad Star Wars show. We've had a few of them, but when you look at it and it's like it's got the biggest budget, they've had a new time period. It's a big thing for Star Wars, but they've just kind of wasted it, you know. And like you've got this runtime, this really long runtime for a show. The most episodes, I think, pretty much of any show, really, right? Well, the biggest budget anyway. But
Yeah.
completely new cast of characters, and we don't care about any of them. And then they go out, and to be fair, they go out really cool. Like Yord's death's great, Daphne Keen's death's great. And
She's
actually,
got the best death in like modern Star Wars to me, honestly. Just because it was
probably,
out of
yeah.
nowhere, like that quick, like like that's a cool visual. It's just
Yeah.
a shame, like I was more shocked than like, oh damn, she died. I was more just like, oh damn, they actually did something.
Get there, yeah.
You know.
And I like looking at it in the frame of like Phantom Menace, where it's like this is like Obi-Wan dying, you know?
Yeah.
Like she's the Padawan. Like this is like what if Obi-Wan just got fucking like cut in half by Maul, and it's like
Yeah.
you would be like, oh fuck, like Kenobi's dead. Obviously, it wouldn't
Mhm.
happen, but like, uh, but yeah, you'd be like upset, but you just don't care. But I do agree with what you said earlier, is that their little fight, the bit where it's just one-on-one for them, that's probably the best bit of this, like the best fight in this episode as
Yeah.
well. Although I do like some bits of other fights as well, like the bit where Yord kind of comes back and he uses the helmet to
The helmet.
block. Yeah,
I actually really like the helmet. Like for that, not the design, but like the idea of it. You know, it's something new. It adds a little bit more stakes to the fight. You know, it's a nice little trick. However, cut to last episode, didn't use it once. So I'm like, well, bro,
all right.
freaking, what was the point in it? You know, it's like this is supposed to be your secret weapon. Because there's literally a bit in the fight at the end where like they've got the cross guards and it's like going towards his face. It's like, mate, just headbutt it. You'll be fine. Like, just, you know, like unless it's broken. Like, was that stated? Like, did it break because of the whole thing earlier? Like, I can't remember.
I don't know because he has no reason to wear it if it's broken.
Well, yeah. Well, he wore it to hide his identity, right? Like to be incensed,
Yeah,
right?
but no,
like,
no, yeah, but in episode 8, everyone already knows his identity in that episode.
no, but I mean like when like he puts the helmet on to stop her from sensing him, right? That's like a
I
whole
suppose.
the whole thing. But it's like, yeah, but surely the metal still works. Like it's not because it's not like it's not a machine. Like it's a material. So it's like it's a material that like powers
Right.
the lightsabers off. So surely it should still work. So it's just like again, it's like what you doing? Like God's sake, guys.
Maybe this is just a preference thing then. I didn't like the Cortosas at all. I don't like. I like my lightsaber simple, and I like him. I don't know. I think I'd have rather he played dirty in the sense of like he turned his lightsaber off and on and stuff like that,
Oh yeah, yeah.
rather than Cortosis. I'd rather he was playing dirty because obviously the Cortosis is him playing dirty as well because they don't know he's got it. But and I know it's in Legends, and a lot of people really liked it for that. I'm not familiar with Legends. I have no stakes in the game of expanded universe. Just as a thing in Star Wars, I wasn't a fan of. I'm not a fan of things that can counter lightsabers. Honestly, even Beskar I can kind of get, but I'm also not like totally happy with it. But the fact that
Would you be more or would you be more upset or more okay if it was a Beskar helmet they had?
if it was Beskar helmet, it obviously wouldn't turn the lightsabers off. It would just repel it.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. Like, would you rather that? Because like I think that's just lazy. Because like that's just so overdone recently.
That's lazy
the whole
because it's been
Beskar
overdone.
stuff.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
but even just the idea that the idea obviously it makes sense within the mythology of Mandalorians why Beskar does work against Jedi because obviously they had their wars and stuff like
Yeah.
that. But I don't know. I don't know if it's just like as petty as I just don't like the idea of lightsabers being like
Nerf.
fallible, nerfed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. I just the head button looks a bit weird. I mean, to be fair, if you're gonna have a helmet that can turn off lightsabers, like obviously it makes sense to headbutt it. It looks a bit funny in some of the fights, but it's kind of
Yeah,
it's got a bit of brutality behind it as well.
I guess like it helped me like justify one guy killing like 20 people, you know, because like realistically you're done, you know, like no matter how good you are, you should be especially if you're not even like a master, because he's not really, right? I think that was pretty much stated.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be killing people. So if he's got this like secret weapon, it's like, okay, I can kind of get behind that then. But no, it's fair though. Like I'm on the fence of it, but I am more lean on side like I could do kind of like it just for like the new, because like they like to add these new powers, like oh Luke projecting himself and stuff. So it's like they typically do stuff like that. This is one where I'm like, okay, I can get behind it, kind of thing, you know. Visually, it's interesting as well because like, oh shoot, like it's freaking cut off the lightsaber. Like, that's kind of new, but no, it's fair though.
Yeah,
It's
well,
fair.
to be fair, I like what they do with it, and I like how they use it, and I think it's used well in the fights. I just don't know if I'm a fan of the idea itself. That's
Yeah.
I've made that clear. That I actually like the way the fights play out with that being a thing. I'm just not sure if
In
I like.
good news, it's probably not going to be used ever again, so, so
Hopefully,
probably be good.
well, for me, I don't mind. But also, Kamir's the reveal that he's Finestra's student is very, very obvious. To me, anyway. Again, there's a lot of these mysteries they set up, and it's like, bro, you should have got J.J. Abrams on board. He's great at setting up mysteries, but like,
Yeah.
they're just not really good at setting up mysteries in this show because they only set up mysteries with one answer.
Yeah.
So it's not a
Yeah.
mystery. It's just delayed information, which is not interesting. So that didn't interest me at all. And the way you figure that out, right? Oh, I'm not gonna mansplain this to you, but the way I figured it out straight away basically was one, again, who else is it gonna be? Because no one else is old enough to have been his master, basically, that we've seen. Two, he has whip. He has whip marks on his back in the next episode, and we know exactly one character in all of Star Wars that has a whip. So like,
Yeah.
who is it gonna be?
Yeah.
I guess I have a nitpick here. Why was Saul? Because Saul comes into the fight quite late on. There's no explanation as to where he was, why he's so far away from. Because all the other Jedi are grouped together and they'll get like wiped out, and then Saul
Yeah.
comes in. Where was he? Why was he far away? There's nothing. He just turns out. He just comes out the forest.
Yeah.
Strange.
It is.
There's actually one edit. There's like a little sequence in here that I really enjoy. Is when May's running away and Kamir's chasing her in the mask, and there's like an extreme close up on his mask, and then it like flickers to like some other sequences as well, like some other scenes. I really like the way that's edited. I really like the way that's shot. And yeah, the specific thing I liked about the fight with Daphne Keane and Kamir is it was very fast. Like they were like
Yeah.
it was like there was no space between their hits. They were just moving constantly. And
Mhm.
some of the other parts of the fights had that, but none of them really like nailed it like I thought that bit did.
Yeah, when she spin about in that. That's what I
Yeah.
mean. She was completely wasted because she, like, I saw it behind the scenes with her as well, and she's freaking sick. Like, why is she not your main character? You know what I mean? Like, god damn it! Like, I'm automatically more invested in her already now, just based on that one fight, and then she freaking eats it. So it's like, well, there
Yeah.
goes that development.
It's actually a shame that we never got like you say we had like an interaction with because you'd like Qui-Gon and Maul have an interaction on Tatooine quickly, and then he runs away. And then there's like another fight later on. It's a shame we didn't get that in this really, where it's like we met the Sith Lord a little earlier, and then I don't know, maybe a few people ate it, but then we get like a bigger thing later. But it's only really Saul that has a rematch with them. No one else really gets. Like you say, like Yord or like Jackie, like maybe they could have also just survived this fight and come into it later. But just even the visual of just all these Jedi eating it is like good in itself. To be fair. The line where Saul's like, "Oh, why come out of hiding?" and he's like, "I did wear a mask." I'm like, that's not what he was asking. Don't brush off a genuine question in your show with a joke. That's really unsatisfying. Where it's like, why as a Sith, why have you come out of hiding? That is a valid question to ask, Kymir. Why has he risked this?
Yeah.
Right? Why has he risked discovery by the Jedi? The Jedi have thought they've been dead for 900 years at this point. Why have you risked discovery? And his reply is, "Well, I wore a mask." It's like, nah, bro, that's not it.
Yeah,
Like,
it's silly.
nah.
Again, motivations doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense.
Well, yeah, because
Running feed.
why? Well, because like it's still a valid question I think in the series. Why did he come out of hiding?
Yeah. It's not like he was told. At
Why,
least we
why not?
know.
Why not just? Yeah, I don't know. Like, really strange.
Because there's a reason why Palpatine came to fight it. You know what I mean? It's not like it was just random. Not Palpatine, like Palpatine and Maul. I mean, you know, that was like orchestrated. You know, like there's a reason behind that. It's not just, oh shoot, they caught me. I was just out and about, cutting about. You know, it's like no, like what's your reason? Like you've been hiding. So yeah, it's silly. It doesn't make sense.
Um,
He
and
also drops
then
the Sith bomb in that scene as well. Where he's like, "You somebody
yeah,
call me Sith."
it's really strange that he's like, because did the Sith call themselves Sith? I always thought they did, but
Well,
like,
my perception. I don't know if that's the right word for it, but like he, I don't think he's like actually a Sith because like Sith like which doesn't matter by the way. Like it's still like dark side. Like it's still like whatever. I'm not getting around that loophole of like, oh well, the Jedi don't know if it's actually a Sith. It's like, mate, it's clear dark side user. Like it's the same thing. But like in a cult way, he's not. I wouldn't say he's a Sith because he wasn't trained. I don't think in the Sith.
I don't know.
It's not like
It's Plagueis not
you
his
know.
master though.
I don't know. That's what I mean. It's all over the place. We don't know. It's just like the show ended and we still have freaking 10 questions. Because I just assumed he was a former Jedi who just turned bad, and he's just claiming he's a Sith. He's not actually like part of the order of
Right.
the Sith, you know. But I don't know, freaking, and I don't care either. Honestly, like that's what I mean. At this point of the show, I'm just like, I just want it to end now. You know, just like let's just wrap this up. Just
Yeah.
you know.
And then probably the worst thing in this episode, because that's what I mean. The rest of the episode's pretty positive, honestly.
Yeah.
The worst thing in this episode is this guy gets fucking beaten by bugs like Kang the Conqueror. Like that
Yeah.
is ridiculously dumb. And what the fuck? This guy can kill all these Jedi, but just can't fend off a few bugs. Like just force pull the fucking flashlight off your back and then kill the bugs. Like what the fuck is the problem? Like they just needed to get him out of Dodge so that they could have a
Yeah.
moment with May, Osha, and Saul.
Yeah.
Which this is a nitpick. I guess it's a nitpick, but it's also like just logically not sound. Is May gets stunned by Osha, and then she wakes up within a few minutes and stuns Saul, who then stays stunned long enough for May to switch outfits, and then it's sunrise the next morning before he wakes up.
Yeah.
What? Like, and then that comes into the point earlier of like, why even bother have her switch? Just have, because she was already down. Just have Saul take her onto the ship and Osha run away. That's much easier than all this like convoluted crap with like, oh, I'm going to swap places.
But
'Cause-
why the swap? The swap doesn't even make sense in
I don't
itself.
achieve anything. No.
Because she's trying to get in with the Jedi, May, because she's trying to like turn herself in or whatever, which still is ambiguous because
Well, she's clearly not. Okay, she's clearly not. She's clearly still on the Saul, like kill Saul train, but she doesn't do that either because she's like in the ship with him, and he's like, "Go and help me with this." And it's like, if you actually wanted to kill him, you wouldn't just be like, "Oh yeah, I'll fix the ship," but I was going to kill you with this knife in my hand right now. But because you asked me to fix the ship, oh, I'll go do that. It's like, why are you here? Like, you know, well, makes no sense.
Yeah, it's
Anyway.
very confusing.
Episode 6. Anything final for episode 5? Because like episode 5 is definitely the best episode in the show.
It's definitely the most positive. Yeah, honestly, with 6, I don't even remember 6, bro. It's just like...
That's because six is the one where May is. It's the one where Chimera is on the planet training, or like trying to get Osha to train with
Is
him.
that one when he gets naked?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Just butt cheeks.
Yeah.
Guy, to be fair, guy's in really great shape. He looks fucking.
So I think he looks
mental.
apart. I think he's got a good look.
Yeah.
For the show, it's just yeah, you know.
I actually like him when he's been a Sith, as well.
Well, much better. Yeah,
Yeah.
better than when he was freaking.
He's
little
pretty good. Like,
rounded. Potential.
there's one line here that I'll try and edit in as well. Is Saul's like, my whole team is dead, but it's just like some of the worst. It's just like bad line delivery. I'm just like, you just don't want to give that another take. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Yeah, and one line I actually did like in this is where Chimere's saying, I can't read your mind, but your anger betrays your thoughts, and I'm like, yes, that's correct. Like, but that's like in terms of like Vader and Luke in episode 6, that's right. It's not like he's reading his mind. It's that Luke's insecurity and stuff like that and fear is betraying his thoughts, and it's like there's a little nuance there that I'm like, I'm glad they picked that up, you know, and it's not just like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, I am reading your mind. The only problem with that then is like, if May is on the ship with Saul, why isn't he picking up her aggression? Because she's in the room with the guy she wants to kill. It's like, I don't know, but
Yeah.
I did like that they got that distinction correct. That it's not just like Jedi can read minds. It's like, no, they pick up on like they pick up on information through feeling, which is good. there's a small sequence where Saul's ship is in orbit, and it looks fucking dreadful. It's like a PS2 cutscene. Mog is probably the least believable Jedi ever. Guy is not cut out
Oh
for
my
this.
god. This is the one where I sent a video in the group chat where I was like, they find all the dead Jedi, and his instant thought was, did Saul do this? I'm like, what? How did you connect those dots?
Well,
You know what I mean?
and I
Just like,
actually have a line here that comes into that where it's like, I think that's where Vanestra got the idea to frame him, is because he brought that up.
probably.
And I'm like, that's a decent like point that maybe she didn't come up with that. It's like her like friend came up with that, and she just like kind of used it going forward. I don't mind that, but yeah, it's really
I
strange.
just don't understand how he got to that
I don't know if he's just,
resolution.
I don't know if he's just spitballing because he's like, oh, only someone powerful could have done this. It could only have been Master Saul. But I think he's just saying that in terms of like power levels, where he's like, none of the other
guess.
Jedi that were here were powerful enough to take out everyone else, apart from Saul.
I don't know. Yeah,
And
like,
to
I
be
know what
fair-
you're saying. I know. Yeah, you're like. Yeah.
to be
I know
fair,
what you're-
Vanestra does call him out. She's like, that's a hell of an accusation. But like, they never really
Yeah,
do
yeah.
anything with it.
Says her, because she's the one who
She's the darkest motherfucker here, yeah.
honestly.
I think Chimera is also way older than he seems, and I think maybe even Plagueis is already experimenting with like extending life. He just can't like create it.
I
Because
think that's why he's interested in the witches, because they
yes,
succeed. Yeah.
but I think he's already on the road to extending life because Chimera has a line on the beach here where he's like, because one of my questions was like, Chimera looks not too much older than Osha, so like if he was a fallen Jedi, someone might recognize him, no?
Well,
But then,
they do a little romancy thing with them both, so you kind of have to believe they're,
I guess,
you know,
but
mate, he's like literally
I'm
shooting in front of her, and she looks, and then they're holding hands at the end of the show. You know what I mean? Like, there's definitely
look.
some. She did look,
I mean, you would look though, wouldn't you? Like,
but then as well, like him and Saul are supposed to kind of be on a similar, not age. No, I guess not. They're not the same age, but like him and maybe Torben are maybe the same age, and Torben was like freaking old man when we freaking last saw him. So it's
yeah.
like, so,
I think he's like on the scale of 100 years old, something like that. I think he's a very old person because he has a line where he's like, "Oh, it was a long time ago on the beach." I think that's like sowing the seeds for that. I think Plagueis has already been experimenting with like life extension, and he's like been drip fed some of that or something.
Yeah.
There's also a really funny line here with May where she's like, "I'm not so easily corrupted," and then the next scene is like getting her buttons pushed, and she like has a saber at his neck, and I'm like, that aged like milk. And
Bro, you tried to kill your sister. Like,
no, Osha, sorry, Osha.
Oh, Osha, alright, sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. And also there's a line in here that's like direct callback to Yoda where Kamir's like, "Oh, go in the helmet, and it's only you and the Force and what you bring with you." And I'm like, "Don't you speak his words? Those are Master Yoda's words. Don't you dare. Those are his."
I suppose we have to bring up the whip now. I suppose it has to be.
Now, I went into this wanting to hate the whip. I didn't like the idea of a whip. I don't like you say, I don't even like Cortosis that much, so I don't like the idea of like fucking up lightsabers. The whip is really dumb to me. And if you like it, fair enough. I don't like it. And I didn't like it going in. I didn't like that it was going to be in the show, and I didn't like it in the show. So my opinion hasn't changed. I don't like it.
The thing is, it pissed everyone off because the people who don't like it, it's in it, so it's like it's canon. Like you have to accept that now. So you piss certain people off. But people who do like it, you see for that one moment and it's done. Like it's never used again.
Yeah.
So it's just like,
It's a bug.
what was the point
She
then?
feels a bug.
Like, what's the point? You know, just like it was just a little. Oh, here you go. It's like, it's so dumb. It's so dumb. But also, you're supposed to acknowledge that she's the one that whipped him, right? Yet she slices the bug. So how does that work then? Surely, if she whipped him with that thing, he'd be dead.
I'm sure there's a comic
Yeah.
explanation with like a power setting that it's not as powerful as a lightsaber, and
sure.
you can have a dial that turns it up or down. But I don't know why I'd ever use that. But
Yeah,
don't like it too much.
yeah, it's dumb. It's dumb. It's dumb. I'm all for like new things, but that's too far. That's too
Yeah.
weird.
I mean, thankfully we only used a little bit, but yeah, I'm not a fan of it.
That's what I mean,
Um,
though. It's just like you piss both people off. People who like to and dislike this. It exists and it's barely used. So
at least take a big swing,
yeah,
I guess. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Episode 7. This is the second flashback episode to the same episode, but just
To the
from Saul's
same
point
to
of
the same
view.
flashback.
The problem is that pretty much all the information we had, apart from a few things near the end, we already knew. So you could have just flashed back to moments rather than the entire sequence, because even when you were following the girls when they were outside, you saw Saul following them early, like when they went into the castle. So we already had the information that Saul was following them, and yet we spent a big chunk of this episode at the start with Saul following the little girls. It's like, what are we doing here? Like Back to the Future 2, just seeing like the characters from an earlier sequence, just from a different point of view. It's like, why are we wasting time on this? Like, you've got 8 episodes, use them. Like, there's a lot of that.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's some big things in here, like, some of my favorite lines. The Mother Cora, where she's like, "Good girl, get mad," like proper soccer mum like vibes. I'm like, bruh, no, that's not it. That's not good. Who wrote this?
Yeah.
What's the other one? Oh, probably my favorite line in the whole series. Mother Anastasia. She's like, she has a big spiel, and she's like, "Oh, I choose mother." That is
Cringe.
pinnacle dialogue. I choose mother. I swear, bro. I swear this is an anime. I swear it's an anime. Like,
Shocking.
terrible dialogue. I don't actually have many notes on this. I mean, we can probably talk about just a general outline.
I guess
Only-
like my main thing is like flashbacks are kind of meant to like explain motivations, right? Like why are characters doing certain things? It's supposed to be set for reveal. I'm doing my own thing in my project for the book, right? We've got a lot of flashbacks and stuff, and they're supposed to reveal plot twists and stuff. That's what they're used for, and to reveal why characters are doing certain things, right? What do we learn that's new besides like oh, that's how she died or whatever? It's like all the characters, it doesn't make sense why they sorry, my head's spinning. Like wait, let me restart. You're trying to set these up to reveal why they're wanting to do what they want to do, yet it's the same answer we get before the flashback. So the flashback's essentially invalid. It's not needed. You know, everything we learn is from the first one. You know, May still tried to set fire, whether it was accidental or not. She freaking set fire to the book. She knows it's going to set fire, and then she drops it, sets fire to the building, even though it's made of stone. So it's like her intention was to still like kill her, you know, and she even says it to her face. The mother, she turns in this freaking spirit demon to this. Well, she claims it's to release her daughter, but like from Saul's point of view, I can understand why he was like, a
shit's
bit,
happening in front of him.
you
Yeah.
know, like Jesus Christ, like I'm gonna take care of this, you know. But then she's
And
like,
not only-
"Oh, I was going to release my daughter." It's like, mate, tell me that then, like before you turn
Well,
into the spirit demon.
Not only does she turn into the spirit demon, May starts fading away as well.
Yeah.
So he's
Yeah.
looking at this kid and going, "What the actual fuck?" And he's like, "Oh, fuck, I'm stopping this." Zap,
Yeah.
and he does. And it's like, all right, okay. And then she just turns it back into like a physical being. It's like, was our body always there? And I don't. It was really strange. Really strange. But yeah, that's my favorite. That's the peak Gaslight in this whole series, is when she's like, "Oh, you've killed me. I was gonna let you do what you wanted." Like, no, you
Yeah.
weren't. All your actions said otherwise. You can't gaslight me into this. Like,
Yeah.
terrible.
Stupid.
The other thing is the only piece of information we actually learn that we didn't know previously, was that Saul was the one to kill the mother. I don't think there's any other information necessary.
But
You don't
like,
need to fight.
you knew
fight with the Jedi
she
still,
died. You know what I mean? And you'd have
Oh, yeah.
to assume it was one of the Jedi because she didn't die from the fire or anything like that. You know?
Also, can you not have that be a reveal in dialogue in the present day where Saul fesses up and he's like, "It was me. I did kill your mother," and then we get a flashback to the moment where he kills his mother or her mother. Do you need a whole episode to have that one line of that, like one reveal? No.
Yeah.
It's really inefficient the way it's told.
But it
yeah.
also means like when the reveal happens for Osha in episode 8, we're already aware. So it's like we're just watching. You know what I mean? We're just like, we're not learning anything. We're just watching how it goes down. It would have been better if you just skipped this episode
and then you learn that way.
Yeah.
You know, it's like,
That's
oh
true.
shoot, like
That's
pipe
true.
bomb.
Can you just skip episode 7 and just go straight from 6 to 8?
You'd
Probably
be
yes.
better off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did like that we got a little bit more with the Jedi, like before they went into the Coven, but it's just too little, too late. Unfortunately, like there's probably a version of this where you can bump episode 3 and 7 together and make that episode 1 or 2 of the show, and then maybe it's better. But the way it's structured is really, really I don't
Yeah.
know, really, really poor.
The show's just inherently flawed. It's impossible to just make one change and like, oh, that fixes it. You know what I mean? It
Yeah.
needs a complete
Oh, yeah.
revamp.
That could make it better though.
Yeah,
Structure-wise, it can improve the structure.
yeah. Because I see what you mean. Like, I got into more of like Carrie-Anne Moss's like character a little bit more. Like, not that I still like her, because she's not. She's just still boring. It's something. You know, it's the same with the Wookiee. At least it gets to see him like kicked by a fire or something. You know, it's just like, all right, cool, he's chilling.
But it is that
Yeah.
thing of like we are now in a flashback with 3 characters that are dead.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
what you gonna do?
exactly.
The other major problem I had with this episode is actually after this episode. The music, the pop music outro, that is fucking disgraceful. That does not belong here in Star Wars. And most things, you know, Star Wars is not the most welcoming place. You know, fans are pretty quick to anger.
Traditional.
Yeah, but this shit is not welcome here.
Nah.
I'm gonna speak for everyone. That shit is not welcome here. Absolutely not. That is fucking dreadful. I couldn't believe it when it came on. I was like, oh, if I switched on to like another show on Disney Plus,
See,
and
things I
looked back
didn't
up and
know
was
because
it's still there.
like I don't stick around, so I just like turned it off right away when the episode finished. I didn't even know until you brought it up. I was like, wait a minute, like no way. I thought it was an edit at first, honestly, when you showed me.
Really poor, really poor. Again, it doesn't break the show, but it's just emblematic of a problem with a misunderstanding of what Star Wars is.
Yeah,
And it, like, again, this thing, if it was in a good show, you'd have been like, that was a bit strange. But you know what? We can let it slide. But it's the fact that
Mhm.
it's in a bad show and you can't excuse it because
Yeah.
you're getting quality content elsewhere because you're not. And here we go. We're up on episode 8. Unless you have any final thoughts on episode 7.
2 things. It was nice to see the Wookiee fight, even though it was like just fine. It wasn't as sick as I was hoping it would be, but at least we got it. Torben, worst motivation ever. I want to go back home. Dumb. Freaking come up with something better. You know what I mean? Like you like again, you've got a whole room of writers. Come up with something better than that. Like Jesus.
And also, it
Yeah.
never gets brought. It gets brought up in about 2 sentences, and then that's the fault. That's like the lead-in for his motivation. There's no, we don't get that in the episode 3 or anything. That's what he
Yeah.
wants to do. Nothing.
But I think this one episode single-handedly just every person you liked going into it, you're like, well, you're a crappy person, so I don't like you anymore. You know, like it's just so going into episode 8, like because like we were saying before episode 8 came out, we were like, what are we even expecting? Like we don't even know like
Well,
what's gonna happen, like or what's
and
being built
actually,
up. You know,
we're recording this the day after the Acolyte came out, and this is the
Mhm.
day that The Boys season 4 just ended as well.
all right.
And going into the final episode for The Boys, you're like, shit's about to go down. Spoilers,
Yeah.
right? I'm not gonna have any spoilers for The Boys, don't worry. But you go into the final finale expecting shit to go down, and you kind of have an idea of what that's going to be based on where everyone is when you go in. The problem is, this is a flashback episode for one, so you're not actually building up any new stakes for the finale.
Yeah.
Really bad structure-wise. And 2, we don't care or know about what any of these characters are going to do or want in this finale. It's completely unpredictable. And it's just wild that that's like the way they went into the finale for this season.
Terrible.
I will say one more positive on episode 7. The scene where Mother Anastasia takes over Torben's mind, I actually really liked that.
Really?
Yes, I liked seeing it as like a kind of possession thing. I liked that scene. It was kind of spooky. I liked the way it was filmed. But yeah, episode 7 probably one of the poorer episodes in the season.
Off the
Episode
mic.
8. Is that you done on it? Is that
Yeah.
your points? Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Good stuff. Right, episode 8. Now, I spoke to you just before the podcast and said there's a line in episode 8 that I really hated. And you'll have to correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think this has ever come up in Star Wars before. And if it has, I would hate it there as well. May says in this episode when she leaves Saul's ship, He says, "See you in hell, Jedi."
Oh yeah, I have a retort for this.
You have a problem, or you
No,
have a retort?
I have an answer, but I don't
All right.
like
Okay.
it.
Okay.
It's my one problem that happened in my favorite movie ever, Empire Strikes Back, and that's when Han Solo is in Hoth, and he's like, "I'll see you in hell." He does say that,
Does he?
so it has been mentioned before, but I really don't
Oh,
like it. It's my
I don't
one
like
issue with that whole film,
I
except
don't like
like the
that
whole
either.
sibling
Is
thing.
that when he's on? Oh,
When he's about to save Luke, like he's leaving the base, he's like, "Well, I'll see
right.
you in hell," kind of thing.
Oh,
So it has been said before, but you're right. It shouldn't be in Star Wars.
yeah. Well, there you go. I'm not a hypocrite. I don't like it in Empire Strikes Back either. Then.
That's what I mean.
Although,
It's my one criticism from that film, pretty much, and I've
yeah.
always disliked it. So when it
Well,
comes up and it's like, God damn it, you're just like feeding me fucking issues.
yeah.
Just like,
Well, fair enough. I'll put my hands up and say I'll.
but I see what you mean
At
though,
least,
because it's a bad line, and it shouldn't be in because it's never been mentioned ever since. I don't think so because
yeah.
hell's like a real, not real, but it's like it's not depends who you
Depending on
ask,
your
but
point of
like
view.
it's a
But
no, but it's like a
it's a concept
it's
we've come up
a
with.
it's a concept we come up with. It's a religion
Or
on Earth,
to us.
not
Yeah.
in space. Christianity isn't in Star Wars. So they don't have hell.
Not
They may have a
directly.
version of their hell, but it's not. It's probably not called
It's not
hell.
called hell. It shouldn't be called hell.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
but
I don't
no,
know
yeah,
what.
it's interesting you brought that up because I was wondering what
Oh well,
quote you were going to
I'm
bring up
glad
there.
you had a point against that though. That was good.
Yeah, because that was the
That
first thing I thought when I came up. I was like, oh shit, it's fucking Empire
because
Strikes Back.
I had a feeling that it was. I don't know. I had a feeling that it had been brought up, but I didn't know where. And I'm glad you knew.
Do you remember it
Um,
though? Like, do you remember him saying that? Like, now that I've said that.
Not really. No, I'm gonna have to go watch it
No,
now.
you'll need to. It's literally like just as he leaves on the Tauntaun to get Luke,
I
because
wish you
like
hadn't told.
the guy's like, you might die out there. He's like, I guess I'll see you in hell. Like
Yeah, I
that's
know it's the scene. Yeah, but
yeah,
I just don't remember the dialogue now.
it's mad. Yeah,
Um,
mad.
you could have changed that, George, in your expanded
I know way
or
of
your
all the
updated edition.
things.
Yeah,
Of all
all
the
the
things.
things you wanted to change. That was one.
Jeez.
And also, there's a bit in this where like Saul's like, "Oh, you're not twins. You're not even sisters." One, that sentence should be the other way around because twins is more specific than sisters. That's really nitpicky. The problem is with that scene, actually, rather than just a nitpick, is that does May not want to know what he's going to say? He's got this big bombshell information to be like, "Oh, you and your sister, you're not actually sisters." Even if she doesn't like him, you don't think she wants to hear him out before she breaks out. There was no like urgency for her to break out. She already had the thing ready to go.
Yeah.
So I don't know why she didn't just let him talk. That felt like it was for the audience, just so they could delay that
100%.
information for us.
100%.
Did you pick up on that as well in the moment?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, good man.
Just that happens all the time. They do that all the time. Just like, oh, let's cut this off so we can save it for later. But there's no reason to cut it off. You're just doing it for the sake of it.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
so I know I'm not crazy.
No.
I actually did like the scene where Saul's chasing her little pod through the planet rings. I thought that looked pretty good, and I don't
That
think
was
we've
cool.
seen some of that.
Yeah.
I don't understand why Basil shorted out Saul's ship because he attacked May in the last episode, so he knew that was May and not Osha. I don't know why he shorted out the ship other than what?
You can sniff her out. Like he knows.
Yeah.
Of all the people he knows,
But then he helps her in this episode, and it's like, okay, so even Basil, the little side character tracker, who's basically not even a character, has wonky motivations. Like, oh Jesus. There is a line in here in the next scene where the senator is with Venestra, where he's like, the majority of the Senate can't even imagine the galaxy without the Jedi, and I can understand why. The problem is, the audience can't understand why, because all we've seen are bad Jedi. We haven't seen why the Senate trusts the Jedi.
This is almost my most like annoying scene because I actually really I liked what they were trying to set up here, but I'm like, this should have been like throughout the whole show. Is though like the Senate and the Republic like up the Jedi's ass about like this whole thing, because we keep hearing about it, but it's different like seeing them actually getting involved. And it's like, right, what are you guys up to? Like, what's going on? Like, we knew Jedi were out for themselves, whatever. Like to set up the prequels, because obviously that all goes to crap when that happens. So it's nice to see this set up, because I like the politics of my Star Wars, and we got freaking nothing in this show, regarding all that.
Yeah.
It's just like Jedi being freaking incompetent. So it's, and I thought the guy that played the Senator was actually pretty good as well.
To be fair to the show, they do set it up in episode 2 on a rewatch. I never picked up on it the first time. The problem is, it's very, very little. It's a throwaway line. It should have been, like you say, kind of at the forefront of like a bit of the like pressure on them trying to keep this down. Is that the Senate are already on their ass. So if
Yeah.
something goes wrong, that's a big fuck up for the Jedi. Not only internally, but also for like the Senate and galaxy-wide politics.
But it's like you say, we
Um,
don't know enough about the backstory, so it's just confusing why people are saying that. It was like,
Yep.
well, why are they against the Jedi? You know, what have they done to skew your trust? You know, it's like what's the vibe? We don't know. So it's just they're just saying it to set
Yeah.
up scenes. You know, it's really just
There is
poor, man.
there is a lot of that in the show where it is just one bit of dialogue is there to set up one bit of dialogue later. It's never really like a through line. There's never like a through line throughout the whole show, or like
Yeah.
multiple through lines where it's like they're all connected and they all come up like occasionally. It's very
Mhm.
like one note where it's like, oh, Yord speaks Basil's language. Yord understands Basil. That's the end of it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things like that, like this as well, where it's like we hear that the Senate are on their ass, and then one episode later or whatever, they're there. You know what I mean? It's like very one and one. There's no like follow through in any of these concepts.
Mhm. Terrible.
Positive.
This is
I mean,
oh
do you want to say anything
no
about
no
that?
no no no.
Okay. My next point is a positive one, loosely positive. I think the Saul versus Khmer fight is actually kind of good for most of it. There are a few bits I don't like in there, but I actually like the fight scene again. I will say a lightsaber fight during the day, and to be honest, even at the nighttime, the lightsaber that we've talked about this before as well. The lightsabers in Disney Star Wars have never quite looked right to either of
No.
us. In the sequels, in Mando, everything, they always look a bit wrong to us
Like
anyway.
toys. Just-
Um,
they do.
but yeah, a bit like a baton. But
Yeah.
I don't
And I
even know.
get it because they're physical now, right? That like they actually use light up sticks on
Yeah.
set. That's why they look different. Whereas like before there were these metal freaking poles. You know, so
Well, yeah,
it's
it was
like-
film stock, right? I think it was like film. Oh no, it was like
Yeah.
the stuff the screen's made of, right? The silver screen, the theater
so.
screens, right? Because it was highly reflective. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um.
I mean, yeah. So.
So yeah, it was an in-camera thing.
Mhm.
But well, kind of. I think they did masks on the first film, but um. But anyway, it's more to do with this was in episode 5 as well. I noticed it a few times. It's not in every scene because some close-up scenes it does look fine, but there's some scenes where you can kind of tell that it's got like curvature to the blade
Right.
when it's on. Like there's like slight dark spots on the blade in the core. I actually think this series did a bit better because Kenobi really bothered me because it was so bright, but not the core of it. This is pedantic semantics, but yeah, it's really particular. But in Kenobi, the blue hue that the lightsaber gave off was too bright for me. But the
Ah, it
core
was like
wasn't
yeah,
right
what I mean.
either. But in this
It's
show,
like flashlight.
I feel like they got exactly. But in this show, I feel like they got the brightness of like the environmental brightness of a lightsaber correct, but they got the core brightness wrong. It's
Right.
not bright enough in the core. But the blue and the yellow, that looks good. And the way that reflects off the environment is good and the characters is a good level. But the core itself is still not white enough for me. Completely nitpick, but just like they just don't look the way they should to me. And it's one of those things that's like it's a shame when you're watching a fight scene and you're like, there's something just a little bit off about it, you know?
They look their best in the prequels, I think. That's my favorite version of what a lightsaber looks like to me.
Fair enough.
It's
Yeah.
just like the best version.
But yeah, I liked. Obviously, I think we talked a little bit. The bit where he jumps off the bridge. I've seen a meme of that already. This came out like yesterday. But
Yeah.
I don't like how floaty that is. But then, yeah, I like some of the other floaty elements in that fight as well. And I think it was generally pretty good. And then the only thing about that fight that confused me a little bit is the way it ends. Is Saul cuts the top off of Khmer's lightsaber, right?
Yeah.
The problem is we've already seen that Khmer has a secondary lightsaber, like the small one at the bottom. So,
Mhm.
like, do you not just detach that? I mean, maybe he thingied through the crystal, but then how does the other one work if it doesn't also have a crystal in it?
Good
I don't
point.
know. So
Point.
Saul takes out the lightsaber at the top, but the bottom doesn't work. I don't know. I was like, why didn't he use it again? And I actually thought the whole scene, I was like, oh, he's got another lightsaber, and Saul's not realized. And I was waiting for him to use it, and he never did. And I was like, Have they just forgotten that he could pull his lightsaber apart? But fair enough.
Yeah.
There's also, I don't know if you caught this, but I only just caught it and then had to rewind it. There's a when the fight's over, Kamir's talking to Osha, I think, and the ADR is really off because he's not moving his lips, but he's speaking and he's on camera.
All right.
There's like it's like the camera's he's kind of in the background, so it's not like a close up, but he's definitely on camera and his lips are not moving. And it reminded me a bit of like the Madden Web stuff that come out about the bad guy in that.
All right. I see.
It was that. It was kind of that level of ADR. It was pretty bad.
Sure.
Maybe that's something for the viewers to go watch.
Yeah, what's that?
And then I don't know why May wanted to like bring in Saul to the Jedi Council now because she like killed 2 of the Jedi. So how's she going to bring him in? I want him to be tried and then watches him be choked to death. Does nothing about it. Like May says this. May says I want to bring in Saul to be tried by the council, and then watches her sister choke him to death and doesn't intervene. Again, just like characters saying things that don't line up with the actions they take in the same scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The lightsaber bleeding though, that's the first time it's been on screen.
Yes.
Not in a video game.
I actually do want to know what you think about this because we haven't talked about this.
I'm it's tough. I don't like it being treated as a mood ring. I don't like it like she feels evil now, it's turning red. I don't like that. I like the idea of you bleeding the crystal. But that should be an act. It shouldn't just be like your mood dictates that. Because apparently in like the Darth Vader comic, apparently he bleeds his lightsaber, but it takes like
big
weeks, and it's like a big process. It's like an action you need to do. It doesn't just happen naturally. But I also think because it's a new thing to people, especially people who's not into like the comics or the games, because it happened in the Fallen Order sequel, Survivor.
Yeah.
Very, very like quickly, but it was still sick. Like as many issues I have with that game, that's not one of them. But I think they should have been setting that up. You know what I mean? Set that up and then pay it off that moment. Where like set up the idea that can happen, and not just have it be a surprise. Because like I feel like for a lot of people, like if my mum watched that, she'd be like, "Wait a minute,
what?
How's that work?"
Well,
but also just kind of breaks like canon because like. Surely Anakin's lightsaber would turn red then after slaughtering kids and all that. You know what I mean? So
that's the next note on my slide is why doesn't Anakin's crystal bleed? Because he's even got Sith eyes when he turns up at the temple to kill the youngling.
And I've got an issue with that on its own as well because he should have the Sith eyes during the fight as well in my book. But yeah, so it's what's up with that?
Well, Anakin's saber should turn red really at the Jedi Temple before he even fights Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So yeah, even on Mustafar it should already be red. But like on the basis of this show, yeah, that was actually one of my issues with Jedi Survivor as well, is I wish it was more of a labored process for the crystal to bleed. Even though that reveal is cool for it to go like and the thing is it's the same here.
The difference is though, like what was his name? The bad guy in that?
Can't remember.
From the Old Republic? Not Old Republic, High Republic. It looked like he intentionally did that though. Osha did it. That was like I felt like it just happened based on our emotions or whatever. So it's just like that needs to be fought out more because I don't like it being a mood ring. It should be a process that has to be done. Because like it's in the books that's how Ahsoka turns hers white because she has like red crystals and she purifies them. Yeah. But it's not just like she holds it and it turns white. It's like no, she has to like go through this process. So
I will say
I'm on the fence of it. That's my answer.
I will say I'm glad we got it in something that wasn't a game.
Yeah.
But I wish it was one more labored process, like you say. I like it to be a bit more like one intentional, but two, I almost want it to be like a cult. Like I want it to be like corruption, like because it is a corruption of the crystal. But I want it to feel like that. Like how some of the earlier episodes when Kamir was saying things, or when he appeared for the first time, the whole shot got darker.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. That should have happened when she had the crystal, where it's like this is like a whole corrupt, not like the forces like reacting around this thing, where it's like someone fucked up's happening here, and it shouldn't just be like, oh, the crystal turns red and now it's red. It should be like, to me anyway, if I was doing it, it would be like a demonic presence almost that is like brought about by this corruption of the crystal, like an event sort of thing. But again, I don't really have stakes because I haven't read the comics. I know I was aware that that was a thing in the comics, but again, if it happens in like comic canon, I honestly couldn't really give a shit. But
It's not really
for consistency's
treated as
sake,
canon.
anyway. For consistency's sake.
Andor's got a comic in that ain't canon based on what we see in the TV show, so just it's all over the place. Yeah, I'd like to see it explored further, but yeah, I'm off. I'm stuck on it.
Maybe if we didn't have 2 flashback episodes, we would have had time for a Crystal
Yeah.
Bleed. There's a line where I think it's Kamir says to Osha, he's like, when they find out how powerful you are, you know, they're gonna want to like poke and prod you and basically probe you like an alien, and you're never gonna know peace again when the Jedi know how powerful you are. It's like they've already taken their M count when they were children. The Jedi are aware of how powerful these girls are. No?
And just handmade them anyway. So it's just like freaking, you know. So it's
Oh yeah, and they have me now. Yeah, anyway, yeah.
So it's like
makes no sense.
Again, they're just saying stuff just to freaking fill out the freaking screen time. Honestly, it doesn't mean anything. No freaking show.
Character motivation. Why does Osha want to train with Kamir? It's never really explored.
Over staying with her sister, that they finally like freaking solve things between each other. Yeah.
The other thing is, again, this comes into like what I was saying earlier, like very earlier, about like episode 1. We're shown that she's naturally morally good. She helps people she doesn't need to help. Why has she taken this turn to now join a Sith Lord?
After like what, a day with him? Like, oh yeah, a day.
I mean, he is hot, so maybe I'll get some.
Whereas for Anakin, it took him like his whole upbringing to like freaking mold into a Sith. You know, it's like Jesus.
Yes,
honestly, man, it's just it's terrible.
Logical. We're getting very near the end of my list, which is good. If Kamir can wipe memories in a matter of seconds, as he does with May, why not wipe the memory of the Jedi when he's worried they're going to discover him?
Yeah.
You know, like Saul, like at the end where he's like, "Oh, I've killed all these Jedi," sort of thing. And it's like, "Oh, you know I'm a Sith or whatever. You can't survive." Well, if you can't kill him, why not try and wipe his fucking memory or something? I don't, because he's knocked out, right? Like, just erase his memory. Don't let him remember Sith. Like, I don't understand why. Like, because force memory wipe, that's a new power, right? At least to the movie canon. Probably in comics or something, but I don't remember a memory wipe like clean slate. I mean, it might just be like a Sith mind trick, like a more extreme version of that.
Yeah.
But I don't know. How do you feel about that?
Yeah. Honestly, like at this point in the show, I'm like, whatever. Like everything that's happened anyway isn't canon in my book, so it's just like we can do what you want at this point. You know what I mean? Like, so I've not even got like, and I don't mind the mind wipe. I just don't like how quick and easy it was for him to do it. That it should be more of an effort. It should be more of a process,
or more resistance or something from them. Yeah.
Like I guess like, she was willing, but like still, I also just don't understand why May just allowed that to happen. Like she didn't fight against it or anything.
It would even be cool if they had like, I know this is maybe going a bit too like, I don't know, but it would be cool if they even had like a subconscious like resistance to it, where like May willingly wanted to let her mind be wiped, but her like subconscious mind was like resisting it or something, you know?
Yeah.
And it was maybe just a more labored process. Another big. This isn't in this episode. I think it's a few, like maybe episode 6. May essentially kills Pip. She wipes his memory, and then uses him in her favor. That's never brought up by Osha, and we see early on in the series that this is like Osha's pal. Yeah. And there's a bit where Saul literally says in one of the early episodes, he's like, "Oh, it's episode 6. It's the swap episode," because he says it to May, but. He's like, "Oh, you love that droid. That's like a little friend to you. You love it. I love the way that you love that droid. It's just so you, basically." And then she discovers that... I don't know if she ever discovers that Pip's gone or not, but like, I'm pretty sure Pip's on May's person, and she never goes like, "Why have you got my droid for 1? And 2, why doesn't he remember me? Why doesn't he call out to me? Why is his eyes red?" Like, what? Like, that's supposed to be your best pal. Like, essentially that droid's dead. Like, the old Pip is dead. No resolution to that whatsoever. Just forgotten about. Who told the Green Lady what really happened on Brando? Because she seems to know that Saul killed the mother. She seems to happen. She seems because obviously the Jedi story is that what did the Jedi tell the Council again about the 16 years ago stuff? That May started a fire that killed all the witches.
They blamed on me, yeah. They
Yeah.
blamed on me.
But the Green Lady seems to know the truth. That the Jedi had something to do
Well,
with
no,
it.
wasn't she able to when she showed up when Saul was dead? Couldn't she hear the memories of what just happened or something? Something like that.
Oh, that's a good point.
Something like
Yeah,
that. Something
yeah,
like,
fair enough.
when you meant to kill her mother. But again,
Bit of justice.
it doesn't matter because what she does next freaking pisses me off because it's just well, the whole order are freaking just sack their own guy off,
Yeah.
fully knowing that there's a Sith about. They know she felt her apprentice on that planet. She knows he's about. So, I just don't get it. Surely, admitting to the council, not council, to the Senate, that your own Jedi killed everyone and not this Sith is more damaging to your
Well, yeah,
order.
because you
You
could
know
say,
what I mean?
oh, the Sith, this occult practice that's a little faction on the borders of the universe has actually been in hiding this whole time, and they've never wanted to be discovered, so we never discovered them. It's not our fault either. Surely
Yeah.
that's better than, oh, one of our own killed our entire crew.
One of our best guys, our Obi-Wan Kenobi.
He was teaching kids
freaking
2
went
days ago.
again.
He was a teacher 2 days ago.
He
Yeah.
killed his own friends, his own freaking Padawan, all that. Yeah,
Makes
just
no sense.
stupid. It just makes
another-
her look like an absolute douchebag as well.
And I think
It's
that's the point. Is I think she's actually going to be a villain going forward, because I'm assuming they're going forward.
yes. So
Um,
I mean, why are the Jedi bad guys though? Freaking. This show was supposed to be about the Sith, but it's we want our Sith to be bad. When was the Sith ever good? The only good Sith is Dooku. You know what I mean? In the sense of he's still evil, but he's got his good morals and justifications and
but that's
stuff.
the thing. He has strong
Yeah.
morals. That's the point. Is they don't have strong morals that oppose.
And bro, we got those morals from a freaking 10-minute short from Tales of the Jedi, and
Tales of
that's
the Jedi.
already more justification than this whole show.
It's embarrassing.
You know what I mean? It's
What's
Jesus.
the budget of that one episode of Tales of the Jedi versus
Probably
the budget
not
of this
a
whole
lot.
show? Poor.
Probably not a
It's
lot.
poor.
But Jesus Christ. Let's
Uh,
see.
oh yeah, there was a bit. So after Saul is found dead, the Jedi they go set up a perimeter and look around.
Mhm.
Protect the perimeter, have a look around, see what else happened. Yada yada yada. If Saul killed it, if you know what I mean, if the narrative is that Saul killed all the Jedi and then killed himself, what are they looking for? Because this is a suicide then, right? So why are they looking for a perpetrator? And
Yeah.
they find May with a wiped memory. Do they think Saul wiped his memory? Is that a Jedi power? Do they think Saul can wipe memories? And I don't know.
This makes sense.
Why did they think he came to Brandok? Because they knew he ignored his message. He ignored their message and flew to Brandok. So do they think he flew to Brandok with May just to wipe her memory and then kill himself? Is that the narrative?
Here's
just
another thing. If he's been blamed for all these Jedi deaths, how could he have possibly killed Corbin when he was literally talking to the guards as Corbin died? Corbin died. You know what I mean? So it's just how is he even blamed for all this?
Yep.
People, there's evidence that he's not. There's witnesses.
I suppose, but then he was with Daphne Keaton, so they're all dead, so they don't have an alibi. They don't have witnesses.
I guess. But
It's still-
it's just annoying. It's just annoying.
The-
I don't even like
Torben-
Saul, but it's bro, that guy, poor guy, he just got freaking done in Tuesday
I
by
think
his own
Torben,
by his own group.
you could maybe get away with just paying off guards or killing guards and framing it on
Yeah.
him. I think in Dara, you can't get away with that. There was a whole bar that saw there was a woman there, and
Mhm.
Saul was teaching kids on Coruscant. There's no way he killed Indara. So I don't know
Yeah.
how they can pin that on him.
You couldn't have killed the Wookiee either.
Well, yeah, because he was with a group of he was leading a group
Yeah.
of Jedi.
And I guess they're all dead, but still, that's what it all comes down to, right? It's just witnesses and stuff.
I suppose, yeah, that's true.
But yeah, anyway, I guess
and
we
I
should.
think
Oh,
that's
go
my
on,
last.
go on.
I think that's my last point. Unless you've got anything else.
Well, there's two things that we should end off with, but I think it's the same sort of topic, and that's sort of sequel bait, right? So we get our little Yoda glimpse at the very end, which pissed me right off because the whole time I'm like, don't you show him, don't, because like the thing is, right? See, before the show, I would have been totally happy. I'd be like, oh, if Yoda's gonna show up, sick. Oh, this is gonna be cool to see him in this era. But when the show started, I'm like, you know what? Just leave my guy out of it. You know, just leave him. I don't need these writers to handle my boy. Luckily, he doesn't say anything. You just get back of the head shot, but still. And then you get freaking Plagueis. And to me, that's just them screaming like, season 2, you'll get these characters. You know, if you let's have a season 2, you can bring these two in and be big players, which in itself is a sick idea. Plagueis and Yoda being in a show together, that's awesome. But not in this show. Fucking no thanks. Like,
Oh, these characters.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Like, but the thing is, like, mate, Plagueis, he's just creeping in a cave, man. You're just like just watching these guys.
He's just
creeping
dawdling about, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And bro, for 20 years, people have been waiting for this character, and this is how you introduce him. Like, oh my god!
I think
Like, I know there's
like,
a book and stuff, but
in terms of his actual like look, I think he looked. I mean, we didn't see much of him, but I liked the way he looked.
I liked what we saw. Yeah, like visually, yeah. But just like, what you doing? You know, and it's just like you're changing the stuff, and it's like, again, like, I've not read the book, but everyone says it's like one of the best Star Wars books ever written, the Plagueis book.
Right.
Just make the book. You know what I mean? Like, just turn that into a freaking show, or like short series, or a movie or something. You know, that
To be
Palpatine.
fair, Disney Star Wars do seem quite
They're against it, yeah. They're
apprehensive
against
to
it.
like use anything like that. They're very like, oh, we need to do this like our way. It can't be adapted from anything. They'll take elements because obviously they've got Thrawn and stuff, but
Yeah, but even that changes because like From was part of the Luke's kids and stuff, like, story.
Fair.
You know, it's just like even all that's changed. You know, it's just like, just if people like something, just stick to it. Stop
The
changing.
other thing
things.
is, and this is not my quote, I'm going to say this is from the Jeremy Johnson review of his episode 8, and he made a really good statement, I thought, where I'm paraphrasing, but basically he said the best advertising for a season 2 is a good season 1, not
Yeah.
hype. You know?
Example, Andor.
Yep.
Andor didn't have any legacy characters for the whole show. All new characters, you know? Yet, I'm freaking buzzing for season 2. I want to see Krennic and Tarkin and maybe a Vader and stuff in Andor because they've earned it. You know what I mean? This show, oh my goodness, I do not want to see them touch these characters because they're going to butcher them. You know, so it's just like, leave Yoda alone. Like, god damn. But yeah, no,
Yep.
you're right. You're right. But it's the same with that. The same with Mandalorian. Mando didn't use like legacy characters until they got to season 2. You know, like, they had to prove themselves in the first season. Like, earn your fan base. You know, it was good at first, and then they got the option to use these characters.
That's a good point. Yeah.
You know,
my final point is the power of many end credits is fucking shocking, and it's really funny to listen to.
I pissed myself because I was like, we've been joking about this the whole time, and then they used that as the song.
Bro thought she cooked. That's my last comment.
She thought she cooked. That just sums up the whole show. She thought she cooked.
Bro thought she cooked. I think a final general point on this is it didn't feel like a well-written series. It felt like a series written by someone trying to prove to me they're a good writer.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense. At least it makes sense to me. But it felt like it felt like whoever was writing these episodes. I mean, I know Leslie like is a showrunner, but obviously there was different writers for different episodes. But whoever was writing this, it felt like they were trying to go, oh, mystery. Oh, wait, oh, did you solve it? Did you solve it? Ah, oh, I bet you didn't see that coming. It felt a lot like that rather than just like letting things play out naturally. Like, I'm a big proponent of things don't have to be all twisty-turny, mystery and unique. A simple story done really well can be more engaging than anything. You know, you don't have to like. Obviously, unique stories are unique and interesting in themselves, but if they're not done well, it's a big swing and a miss if you don't do it well. And this show just didn't do almost anything well, especially in the writing department. I'm apprehensive to like fault production too much and stuff like that, but if you're getting paid as a writer, like I work a 9 to 5 job, I'm not a writer. If I was a writer and I was churning out this shit, I'd be disappointed in myself. And
But I mean,
like
but that's the thing, right? So like we have our own writing projects, but like we review each other's work. So it's like, and you just tell people it's like, oh, this isn't that great. Like here's like maybe this could be better. Here's maybe an example of how to do it better, or whatever. Who's checked this? Who who's
yeah.
going over this homework? And like
And
marking
Kathleen
it.
Kennedy, I'm sure she made a statement about like she read the script and she was just impressed and she was like, "Oh, this is so bombastic. This is so, this is the new shit." What did she see in this that's not on the screen? What was on the page that was not on the screen? Because if it was as bad on the page as it is on screen, her fucking head needs to be checked because there's nothing impressive about this show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I mean,
But you know what? I'm happy now because I never need to think about it again until
and
season 2.
I will say, I think we're the type of people where we will almost watch any content that Disney turns out, like Marvel, Star Wars wise.
Yeah. We watch
I
She-Hulk.
yeah, I finished She-Hulk, I finished Secret Invasion, I finished The Acolyte twice almost.
Yeah.
To be fair, I would never watch Acolyte twice if it wasn't for this episode we were recording. But
Yeah.
I can kind of say wholeheartedly that between recent Marvel shows and The Acolyte, I will not. I will be a lot more apprehensive going into the next Star Wars project released on Disney Plus, or in
Just
cinemas.
any
Honestly,
project. Like I'm kind of done like committing to a whole show now. Just like
Yeah.
if the first 2 episodes are bad, I'm not in. Just because I watched this other YouTuber and he gave up after episode 5, I think, because he was like, if episode's 5, I'm just gonna call it. Like if it's not good, I'm just gonna call it. And then he didn't like it, so then he was like, yeah, I'm done. Just not wasting more time on it. I don't think he's reported on it since. So it's like fair play.
Yeah.
Like
I mean,
give it.
yeah, exactly. Fair play to him. At least he's sticking by
Yeah.
it. But
Yeah.
'cause you could just jump on the bandwagon. I guess like we're doing a little bit where you just shit on it for 3 hours, but
Yeah.
it deserves it, frankly. And
Well, yeah, like that's the thing, right? It shouldn't get a season 2 because on every freaking movie freaking website, it's like a 3.7 out of 10 on IMDb anyway. It's like it's low on everything. It's like this is above just hate. This is like people in a general sense don't like the show. Like a general audience
And
doesn't like it.
I'll
It's
throw
not
my
just
hand
like
up
it's
and
got some
say
haters.
there has been, especially towards like the start of the show coming out, there has been review bombs. We're aware of that.
Yeah.
Even with that included, the show might go up a few stars or something. But honestly, in my mind, the 3.7 stars or whatever it has on IMDb, it absolutely deserves and probably should be even
100%.
lower.
Is
So
easily, and some people are saying like, mate, this is Boba Fett's even better than this. But I'm like, mate, that's a freaking disgrace to Boba Fett because Boba Fett's not even that. Like, it's not a great show, but it's not this. Like, Jesus Christ, like Boba Fett was still enjoyable week to week. You know what I mean? Like, jeez, we've got 2 Mando episodes in there. How can you hate that? It's fucking banging. There were some banging Boba Fett episodes, especially episode 2. Remember episode 2? That was a pretty good one when he was training them all and stuff. It was sick. So it's like,
yeah,
yeah.
I'm
So
be
it's
fair. I think Boba Fett's half a good show. Honestly, I like all the Tusken Raider stuff. It's just the modern day stuff I don't like. But
yeah. No, I agree. That's
but
what I mean. So it's like Ahsoka way better than this. Andor's probably like
oh yeah,
the
we
best
never
written show.
we never got to finish our review of Ahsoka. I think we're all generally very positive on Ahsoka.
It's just like the last 5 minutes I don't like. That's literally it.
Right.
It's, the rest of the show I'm actually really positive on.
Yeah,
yeah, so it's a shame.
I think unless it's like an Ahsoka season 2 or an Andor season 2, if there's any more season 1s coming out, I'm going to be very apprehensive about, like you say, dedicating
Like
even an
Skeleton
hour
Crew
a week.
coming up.
Yeah, and
That's supposed to be
certainly
November, I think.
right.
Coming in November.
And certainly Acolyte season 2, if that does get greenlit, one is just proof to me that they're just out of touch with what fans want.
Yeah.
Season 1 is proving that in itself, but season 2 will be absolute unequivocal proof that they have no clue what they're doing
Mm-hmm.
and that they're just looking at
But
numbers.
It pisses me off that it's like, why is Andor in doubt to get a season 2 or 3? But that people are like, just assuming this is going to get a season 2. It's just like, that's literally the best written show we've had. Like, better than I prefer Mando, but it's better written show than Mando.
Yeah,
So it's like,
yeah.
why is that in doubt of getting a season 2 or 3? Whereas this is like, apparently already like on it. Like Leslie Headland's like already talking about like, oh, I'm going to use Plagueis and Palpatine in my next season and stuff. I was like, no, freaking stop. Just don't get ahead of yourself. It's just
But-
you're right. They're completely clueless if they green like that.
And
You
it's
know?
just, I think they are just looking at numbers, because the thing is, a lot of people have been hate watching this for one. Same with She-Hulk.
Yeah.
So if it does get a season 2, I think it's a bit like the Velma series, right? That got a season 2 greenlit because people hate watched it. This is kind of like the Acolyte as well. If they greenlight a season 2, but honestly, I've watched this twice. So obviously, my numbers are going to help them justify that decision.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I've watched this twice, so that I'm never going to watch season 2 once, basically, unless it's banging. Like if I hear like really good things about it, I'll check it out. But until then, I honestly, I'm past the point of just consuming Star Wars content now.
Yeah, for the
For
sake of it,
consumption's
yeah.
sake, yeah.
Mhm.
So, unfortunately, this has put basically this has broken the last straw, I guess, for my tolerance with like shit Star Wars.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
100%.
yeah, and I kind of hope it has for the audience as well, because we deserve better.
100%.
It, I'm glad if you enjoyed the show, but frankly, it's not good enough. So if there's anything else you'd like to
I'm
end
just
us on,
happy it's done, man. I'm just happy it's over. Wait, 8 weeks for
Absolutely.
this? Just to finish.
Yeah.
Just to finish it.
We will have our regularly scheduled episode coming out this week as well. Our film diary, and then I'm not sure what will be coming out after that, but keep us posted. Keep posted on the channel. Check out for new updates, and we hope you enjoyed. Catch you later.
Hey. Happy days. Happy days. I'll stop that.